Bye. Bye. Bye.
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Death by Daylight. We are doing the Valentine's Day Spectacular here. It's gonna be good. It's not quite Valentine's Day, but obviously it is tomorrow. If we were doing this later, we might hit that mark, but we might have to go back to the 10 o'clock time soon anyway. But we've got couples for you. We've got what we estimated are maybe not the best, but couples in horror that we wanted to talk about, and we will get to each of those later. We've got some DVD going for you. We are, again, going to kind of avoid that beginning drinking game because we've got a lot to talk about, and we're just going to continuously have the drinking game throughout the episode. With that said, I am here today with Ernie.
Hey, what up, everybody?
I am here today with Michelle.
Hi.
And
we also are here with the cum dog. If you see, the Demogorgon got a little ahead of himself for Valentine's Day and got himself full of jizz.
Oh.
He had a real good time.
That's such a bad cosmetic.
Yeah, like what? What the fuck were they thinking?
He literally just looks like he climbed out of a bunch of splooge and was like, "Yeah, I'm a cum dog."
Yeah, like even if the slime or whatever is like a Stranger Things thing, someone should have caught it at some point and been like, "There's not really a reason to do this. Like, let's have him like a black and red skin or I don't know." But yeah, so Demogorgon full of splooge. It's gonna get loud, I imagine, right, Ernie, at certain points?
Oh, I'm not gonna play Demogorgon.
Oh,
I just wanted to show you guys the cum dog.
Oh, for sure. What are you playing?
I don't know. I was gonna kind of leave that up to you guys, whatever you guys want me to.
For sure. And so what are we drinking tonight, ladies and gentlemen?
So I got those Michelob Ultra Organic Seltzers to try them.
Oh yeah.
Tell me more.
Spicy mango.
Spicy pineapple, and it's weird.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They're no White Claws, but whatever. They're fine.
Nothing ever is, really.
Yeah, they're fine, I guess.
Alright. What about you, Michelle?
So, I have a nice iced coffee next to me, which I should probably stop drinking or else I'm not going to sleep until like 8 a.m. And I have some soda water, and I forgot I meant to go grab a bottle of Prosecco that I have in my fridge because I wanted to, keep it classy and drink sparkling wine in my pajamas as I talk to you guys. But I forgot, and I don't feel like getting up because I don't want my remote to die like it did last time and the time before that, so it's on the charger. So I'm hoping Cesar is listening to me right now.
Cesar!
He takes it as a hint.
Cesar!
I do have a cocktail minute, though. I've yet to send it to Ernie. I'll do that right now, just because it's a little bit longer, but I will talk about it if that's okay. And yeah, the inspiration of my cocktail minute, it's inspired by my favorite fictional non-horror duo, Dr. Gonzo and Raoul Duke, for Valentine's Day, because I absolutely love them, and I feel like they're like the greatest duo pair ever. And if you remember this scene before they get the gig in Vegas, and they're drinking Singapore slings with a side shot of mezcal and some beer chasers, right? I always thought that was the greatest thing ever. They're getting fucking hammered at like 12 p.m. But anyway, I decided to name the cocktail, and again, I'll send it right now so we can post it. called it the Don't Forget About the Side Pour. And it's just my little riff on a Singapore sling, and I made it to where it does have a lot of ingredients, so it's a lot going on, but it is a tiki-esque cocktail. So because it's Valentine's Day, I thought, okay, maybe I should make something. If you don't have someone to share with, fuck it, get messed up on your own and have a good time. It'll be delicious. But it's gonna have some gin, some Cointreau, some cherry liqueur, a bitter like Amaro, some pineapple, lime, cucumber bitters, and then you just mix that all up, top it with soda, and bam, you're good to go. And don't forget, of course, your side pour of mezcal and a beer chaser, because why the hell not?
All right. Nothing makes loneliness better like alcohol.
Exactly.
Some people in the audience just went, "You're right," and other people went, "What the fuck is he talking about?" Like, the only thing that makes loneliness worse is alcohol. But whatever your poison is, we've got it for you. And what was it called again? I'm sorry.
Oh, I named it. And there's again, I wanted to gonna go over it. So the line in the film is, drinking Singapore slings with a side shot of mezcal with beer chasers, right? So I just named it Don't Forget the Side Pour, right? Like a pour, right? Most of all, because I think it's important to have a side pour of mezcal while you're having this, because one, I love mezcal, and two, I love mezcal. But most as a bartender, I always thought a side pour, quote unquote, was a good code name for like a side chick or a side dick. Like, you know, you go into a bar with like your significant other, and then you ask about a side pour to the bartender, right? Like, you ask like, hey, you know, what about the side pour? Wink. And in reality, you're asking if, you know, your side person is there and if they should leave, or if, you know, you should leave. So anyway, I don't know why I've always thought that anytime people ask, like, rather people would order a beer with the side bar, always be like, I mean, are you asking or are you asking? But I think I'm the only one who kind of came up with that. So again, I thought that was also fitting for Valentine's Day because,
I mean, like, I feel like it could really fucking catch on. Like,
yeah.
I think so too, right?
People go to bars specifically to cheat. Like it's not why everyone's there, but
like, no, like, no shit, dude. I'm not gonna lie, dude.
Oh, Carmen.
If I see if you can always tell too, like being the bartender, you can tell like certain couples that want their privacy. You know, they show up at different times, different cars. If they have a phone call and they take it outside, you know, like we can tell. You're not being that sly, people, but we also don't give a shit. Like, I think it's not flattering. I think it's cool, I guess, if I work at a bar and you feel comfortable enough to do that there, especially in a town like El Paso where it's not that big. It really has this kind of small town feel to it, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, as a bartender, I see you. I'm not gonna fucking tell on you. Unless you're doing it to, like, my best friend, and that's a whole different thing. But I have, like, 2 friends, so y'all are good.
They shouldn't feel comfortable if it's also your best friend. Like, Michelle, you got me, right, dude?
But also,
This
yeah,
is
like, fuck
bartender customer confidentiality.
Exactly. Well, there's, like, a contract, an agreement as soon as you pass the threshold of the bar, so... I see you. Don't forget about the side pour. I got you. Anyway.
I'm really gonna start telling people that, like it's just a thing. Like, you know, when you go to a bar and you're ever curious to see if your lady's there, you ask about the side pour, and the bartender will tell you if she's there or not. And people will be like, "Whoa, that's the kind of shit people here will fucking eat up too."
Yeah.
Everybody's fucking everybody else.
Yep.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
So we've got already a little bit of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. We've got new bar slang you can take to the bar. And we're going to go ahead and we've got all sorts of... It's going to be kind of all over the place, but the theme, which we would like you all to participate as early and as often and as possible, are the best couples or the most prominent or our favorite... Not most prominent, that's actually completely wrong. But, I mean, maybe by coincidence, but like our favorite couples that we wanted to talk about inside of horror movies. Some of them probably a little obvious. I have one that's incredibly popular, but the other ones maybe not so much. And we're excited to bring this to you today. Ernie is going to. You can also, have you gotten it? Are you in already?
I was about to, but then I ducked out of a match because there was someone there with the name of a really big streamer. And
Oh, shit.
I'm playing the nurse, and I didn't feel like getting dick down if it really was him.
Oh, shit. Well, so we've got the nurse for you early, and we're going to go ahead and there is DVD news, if you're, well, maybe, I mean, news and a discussion, if that's primarily why you tune in. We'll have that for you when we take a little bit of a cocktail break.
All I gotta say, if you see me hurt somebody and I'm chasing them, it's gonna look like they're gonna have to go poop. Just pay attention to that.
Oh.
Nice.
So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and the rules for the drinking game. Also, what I'm drinking, I am enjoying a hazy little thing IPA. I really love it. I've been doing almost exclusively either double IPAs or unfiltered citrusy IPAs, and I don't know why I ever drink anything else. I really have found my flavor profile, and it is citrusy unfiltered IPAs. I've committed myself in the new year to trying to diversify my beer bonds, to try to get back into drinking stuff that isn't IPAs and that isn't, like, I used to really fucking love, like, Fin du Monde and fucking Franziskaner and that kind of stuff, and I just haven't I haven't drank that stuff in a long time, and I want to go back to enjoying those beers as well.
Fin du Monde was one of my first, like, favorite beers ever. I forgot about that until, like, right now.
Yeah, it's like not, I mean, it's just so fucking good. The color of it is kind of amazing. There's like a flame on the bottle, and then you pour your beer, and it's almost the same color, and you can't see through it, and it's just really, really good and round. And so I'm gonna go back to that stuff, but in the meantime, I'm very happy to have this with me. And I've also got a tiny bit of Jameson and some vodka as well. So that's what I'll be enjoying this evening. The rules for the drinking game are not complicated. Anytime that Ernie gets a hook or he breaks a generator on his first and his third kills, that's a drink. The second and fourth kills are the only times we take a shot. And then if we get into Survivor game, it's pretty simple because it's mostly just a shot at the end with some stuff in between. So many like spectaculars and that kind of thing. So Valentine's Day ? It is, and I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Just set the tone a little bit, and we're gonna go back and forth. We've done this with serial killers before. We've done this with like Halloween movies where we kind of just go back and forth. But there's not going to really be a competition aspect today. It's just more about a presentation in that way where Michelle gets her chance to present something totally separate than I am and vice versa, and to engage the other person. Sometimes when we come to the table, it's hard to really bring different stuff. Like if we bring the same stuff, the engagement level maybe not as there because we've had like the similar thoughts or similar research, and so we thought that this would be a better format for today. And the couple that I'm going to start off with is, so I have three couples. One of them, and we may not get to all of them, but hopefully we will. Each of us have three couples, and my three couples are framed in three kind of different ways. The first one being an entirely cinematic couple who, there is no literary equivalent. They were not here in real life, although that's, there's going to be some discussion about that. And they exist entirely in the cinematic universe. I have a couple that, the second couple that I'll talk about, is a couple that exists in a cinematic universe, but also exists in a literary universe, and changes the context of the movie almost entirely when you add certain parts of the literature. And the last one I have is grounded in reality. The movie and cinematic universe of these couples is based on quote-unquote real life, although that's also highly debated. But I am going to start off with Mika and Katie from Paranormal Activity. And the reason that I chose this couple is because I can never get enough of talking about either found footage or Paranormal Activity. But I also picked them because I feel like we get a very modern, realistic glimpse into a couple, which is not something that happens often in cinema. Obviously, the movies that are grounded in things like Valentine's Day, if you go and you watch a movie called Valentine's Day, it's so over the top and realistic and unrealistic and vomit inducing that it's hard to understand how anyone really like enjoys or bites into something that's that hokey and cheesy and terrible. And the same goes with many modern romance films. Not all of them. There are fantastic romance films in the modern era. Blue is the Warmest Color comes to mind. There's so many, but there's so many that are just like over the top, really terrible and unrealistic. And if you watch those movies as a young person, and I'm speaking from personal experience, they can warp your understanding of what love is and what it's supposed to be and what relationships are and what they're supposed to be. And I feel like even though it's not perfectly written, we at least get some kind of realistic depiction of a couple, mostly because we're not focusing on their love so much as your cohabitation and ability to be a good companion.
I think adding to that, not so much like that's like very well said, but also like maybe the end of the relationship too, like that also makes it kind of realistic, whether it be, again, we're talking about specifically horror films, whether it be like, you know, their demise or etc. But I think adding to that, well, at least for me, one of the reasons I chose one of my couples, it's because one, I didn't really, any of the couples rather that I chose didn't really tie it to anything like literary. It's mainly just like their own cinematic universe. But I'm not gonna lie, a lot of like specifically one I do have this like very deep connection with because of my own personal life, which I'll get to that later. And it's not just me, I think it's like a universal thing of like, you know, like love ending, you know? But again, that's more realistic than like these romantic comedies that, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I like, you know, just putting that shit on and like having my brain just like take a nap as my eyes just stare at the TV.
Absolutely.
But, you know, like you said, it's not enticing, it's not realistic, it's not relatable. It gives this false illusion, like, I'm gonna talk about like toxic relationships. Like, I think those are the most toxic. Those that like don't seem as realistic. But anyway, I'll let you finish.
Well, I think that's a good point. I think that the end of a relationship can also be romanticized in the wrong way. There are positive things that come from ending a relationship, and there are relationships that need to be ended, which is a positive thing. But even then, relationships can end, and it can be the right thing without some of the ridiculous things that are presented to you in classical romantic movies. And I actually have an interesting. This is definitely the most finite end that we could possibly have out of the three movies that I selected. So when we're talking about Mika and Katie, the first thing to just kind of set the stage is that they're a young couple, first of all. Not as young as one of the other ones that I have, but relatively young couple. They are clearly in their first house together, and they are seemingly very in love. Again, not like this, you don't get it in like this, you know, honey, I'm home, and he has fucking flowers and shit. It's just like the way that they interact, especially in the mirror, which I thought was interesting. When they're like really have like moments that you can really bite into if you've ever been in a relationship, it's when they're in the mirror. Like whether it's either playfully or when it's like he's annoying the shit out of her with the camera, or he's having a vulnerable moment because of the way she's acting. A lot of that takes place in the mirror. And then we also get this added element of everything being filmed. So found footage obviously has a tremendous hill to climb every time that you make a found footage film, because you are already having to navigate, why is this being filmed? Why is someone going to continue to hold the camera even way past it feeling like it's inappropriate? And the answer here is very simple. It's a safety net. It's the only way that people are going to actually believe what's happened. And it captures some parts of the relationship that, again, if you're watching like a romantic comedy or whatever, the dramatic moments, the fighting, all of that, it has to be set up in this way that it's just hard to be raw. Again, not that it doesn't happen, of course it does, but it's just different, I think, in the context of a horror film, because you're facing this thing that feels probably insurmountable at the time. They don't know what it is. You find out with context later, so we're isolating this movie. If you go forward into Paranormal Activity movies, you find out that there's a part in the movie that is way more important than you would originally think. That's when Katie says that she's had some history with like a demon. She like very, very briefly mentions it when they find the picture that's been charred up. Anyway, so if you isolate this movie, there's not they don't really know what's happening. They don't really, especially Mika, has no idea what's going on. It's very clear that even if Katie has experienced something before, that she hasn't experienced it since being with Mika. So this relationship and this romance, other than being important for the reason I mentioned, which is that it's more realistic, is important or mentionable because there is a significant bond that can be formed with somebody in an intense situation. So in their specific case, it didn't take this event to bring them together, but they were more together in this event than they could have possibly have ever imagined, facing death, facing a demon, facing anything that you could make a demon a metaphor for, whether it's your loved one is sick or you know, they're whatever it is, you face this insurmountable thing together, and that's a lot of what being in love is. It's a lot of what being in a relationship is overcoming things together and committing to overcoming things together. Because as you will find out if you watch Paranormal Activity, there are a lot of times where Mika can fucking turn around and run. And the only reason I say Mika is because Kate can't run away from it. It's her. Like, she is, she's what's being hunted. So she cannot, it's not an equivalency. She cannot turn around and leave Mika and it's over. Mika can turn around and leave her and it's over. And he does not, even when, you know, you think about, again, like, you want to put it in context of some kind of reality. If I had been with, you know, if I was in a relationship, whatever, and we decided to do all this stuff because weird stuff was happening, the second that I pressed play on the video where she's standing next to the bed for 5 hours and staring at me, I'm the fuck out of there. I don't have any desire to, like, figure out what it is or why it's happening, or like, no, you did this and it's really fucking creepy and I gotta get the fuck out of here. I don't have what it takes to be soft in that moment. I would need immediately to be, like, either combative with the demon or whatever. I've said this before, like, in a horror movie, the worst part for me would be, like, the anticipation, like, waiting around for the killer. Like, no, let's just fight. If I go, I go. But I don't want to deal with the fucking anticipation and the build-up and all that stuff. And so if you can frame this in any kind of real-world scenario, there are plenty of times that Mika can bail and he doesn't. And even times where it's not like this weird thing happened, but she's being haunted. And so obviously that has a giant emotional toll on a person. And as, you know, in an ideal healthy relationship, which does not exist, not in an ideal sense. Plenty of healthy relationships exist, but this idea of like being in a healthy relationship where everything is 50-50 all the time and all that, it doesn't happen. So there is a give and take, and you can't keep score because people are going to need, one person's going to need more help at one point, and the other person's going to need more help at the other point, and you see that a lot in this relationship. You see that Katie constantly needs help, but there is something there that keeps Mika in it, and it's that commitment to, when you're down, I'm going to pick you up. And it's constantly present because he doesn't waver from it. There's never a threat that he's going to leave or you're fucking making this up or anything. He 100% believes that something's going on. He doesn't always believe that it's a fucking ghost or a demon, but he always believes that something's fucked up when she says that it's fucked up. And he's always there trying to help fix the problem without a whole lot of mansplaining. There's a little bit. But without a whole lot of like being overly eager to just let me fix the problem. Like, no, he was very engaging about how they could together fix the problem. And then there's just shit that happens that fucking scares the shit out of him. And you can't expect people to stay 100% of the time. People get divorced for so much less than my partner is being hunted and possessed by a demon. Like, there's so much, like, people are like, you know what? He just, like, he doesn't like my sister, and I can't get over that, so ball game. You know what I mean? So you know, before you know, there's an opportunity to diminish what this young man, you know, puts himself through. People have put themselves through far less and gotten divorced. And so, for me, despite everything that happens to them, there is a huge... there's a lot to be said for both of their actions within the couple. Again, she lashes. There's points where she lashes out at him, but obviously there's like demonic possession going on. Not possession necessarily, but interaction, and so she can't really be held responsible for some of the like being absent in a moment or being you know snapping at him when he insists on recording in the moments where she feels like she's most vulnerable. But I love this couple in this movie. I love this movie. And I especially like what, in the ending, naturally, chronologically, is going to come at the end of what I have to say. But the ending here is pretty fantastic. The Katie is dragged off into a hallway. There's several endings to this movie. But and I'm only going to talk about two of them. The first one is that Katie is dragged into the hallway, and Mika goes after her, and eventually Mika's body is thrown into the room, and he's dead, and then Katie comes in, and she is now possessed by the demon, and she looks at the camera, and there's like one final jump scare. And the other one is that Mika gets thrown into the room. There's a dead body, but Katie never comes in. There's a fast forward into the daylight, and the cops show up, and you can hear them saying that Katie is nowhere to be found. Either way, the ending is that Katie is nowhere to be found.
Which one was the theatrical, or which one was as far as the ending, like the most...
The theatrical ending is where she...
Most, yeah.
The theatrical ending is the one where she looks into the camera.
Yeah.
There are people that have never, ever, even though they try, they have not seen the cop ending. I don't know how they keep it, like, off of YouTube and shit, but that... I mean, I know I saw it, and I know plenty of people that have also seen it.
I've seen that one. It's cool.
And so, either way, you come to the same kind of conclusion. She's missing. But you get this... And if you've ever wondered, boys and girls, why you have to learn Shakespeare, and why they insist on putting you through the language and kind of the pace of his plays, this is why. Because Shakespeare set a structure for tragedy. And if you look at things through a Shakespearean perspective, then things are either a tragedy or a comedy, and it's hard to break that theory. In the modern age, there are things that break that mold. People are actively trying to break that mold, but it really is hard to get away from either of those things if you really understand that how large they encompass. And it's a simple rule: if someone fucking dies, then if nobody dies, or someone dies, there's like rules to that kind of stuff. But this is undoubtedly a tragedy, and they're marked by what's called a tragic flaw. And a tragic flaw, so like when you're talking about let's say Hamlet, he has like this one big tragic flaw that leads to his downfall. And I think with him it's like paranoia, it might be jealousy. I'm having a hard time remembering exactly what they call it right now. But in this particular experience or in this outcome, what we have is a tragic hero killed by his persistence and his commitment. His love and his commitment to his love and his commitment to seeing Katie reach her potential leads him to ignore all of the warning signs that are eventually going to lead to, of course the demon is inside her, and of course it's gonna kill me. Like if you watch the movie, maybe you don't see that until about like 3/4 of the way in, but the second time you watch the movie, the whole time you're thinking like, okay, it's very obvious that the only possible outcome in this scenario is that he fucking dies. And his tragic flaw allows him to look past all of that and meet his tragic end. And so there's obviously a lot of, because Katie is the victim here, she has 100% no control over kind of what she does. The only rational acting agent in the film is Mika. And so that's why you've heard me talk a lot about his choices and what happens to him, because he's kind of this he's the only acting rational agent. You can't say that Katie is in charge of anything that's happening, and so that's why the shift kind of focuses that way. But I mean, the focus kind of shifts that way. But I think that it's a really great couple. I think it's a nice tragic end. I think it's one of those couples where when you're 15 and you the two of you have just been to Hot Topic and you roll on over to fucking Cielo Vista and you watch Paranormal Activity, it's the kind of thing where you're like, baby, I would fucking let this demon eat me for you. And at 15 you couldn't possibly know what that means, but the sentiment is there, and it's not done in this thing where there's not actual expectations. No one in their right mind is thinking like, oh, that's something that can actually happen and I'm making this promise, as opposed to, again, romantic comedies where it's like, we're together at 15, I'm gonna love you for the rest of my life, and then and then those things come out to be the way they are. Where this promise is the promise that's portrayed on the screen is really just a commitment to this other person despite the terrible shit that might be happening. And further than that, if you want to look at it as a metaphor, it's a commitment to overcome whatever you're going through. Whatever you're going through is what I'm going through. And that's the only way to look at this and not, tear us apart and keep score and fucking put blame on everybody else or whatever. So I thought this couple hit the nail on the head on a lot of different things. I just love the movie, but I also, like, it's nice to watch. It's nice to watch two people who love each other tackle a problem like this insurmountable thing. You think about something that you could use it as a metaphor, someone's parent dying in a relationship, like this person. I always tell people, you don't know who you are, like fucking age, there's no age to it. You don't know who you are until you lose someone incredibly close to you, and grandparents can certainly count if you lose them later in life, but I'm talking about someone that you as a adult who makes all your choices, your own choices, you choose to be incredibly close to this person, and then that person dies in either an untimely way or if they're older, then maybe not so untimely, but you were very close to them in your adult life. Until you lose somebody like that, I don't think that you know who you are, and I don't think you know how you're going to react to things. And And so for me, if you want to make a direct metaphor, you could take this demon as being, one person in the couple losing their parent, or losing a sibling, or losing a close friend, and how much time and effort and love and understanding it takes to get through that situation and still come out as a couple on the other end. And so the demon could be used for a lot of real life, as a metaphor for a lot of real life circumstances and things. And that has been my presentation on Mika and Katie from Paranormal Activity.
Oh, that was great. I love the whole metaphor with like the demon, and the relationship, rather the connection you made with Hamlet. As you were speaking, you were saying that you were trying to name his flaw, and it was procrastination because he failed to kill. Was it his uncle? Right?
Yeah.
So because of that, yeah. So again, reading it was like his tragic flaw was procrastination, which just everything you said, like that, how you connected it to that, I kind of really loved the connection to like Shakespeare, to just literature in general, and they're just like framing story formulas, etc. But more so, kind of the last thing you said about the demon being a metaphor for just like the big things that happen in life, and whether or not, like, losing a parent, can you make it through it with your significant other? I was going to start by talking about another couple, but I think because of how you ended it, I have to skip to my second couple, which is Sydney and Billy, of course, from Scream. Mainly because I want to make a connection before I really get into it. But kind of everything, how you ended it with Mika and... Shit, I forgot her name. What was your couple's name?
Oh, Mika and Katie.
Katie, thank you. Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, talk about, like, going through shit and saying, no, I'm just gonna stay here and you're right, as far as being... I love just that analogy of, like, being 15, watching it in the theater and being like, yeah, I'd have a demon eat me for you, but, you don't really truly know that type of love, and not even love, but like, well, yeah, love, but like connection you have with someone like outside of your family, right? And that's one of the big things I kind of mentioned with the whole Billy and Sydney thing. I'll just start from the beginning. You'll see the connection. I'll make it. But yes, I'm talking about Scream, Sydney Prescott and Billy Loomis, and they are my favorite kind of, let's say, quote-unquote toxic relationship. Let me explain. So they began dating 2 years before the events in the first Scream happened, right? So keep that in mind. And more so in mind because, again, spoiler alerts, I'm going to talk about the entire trilogy. Like, not the entire films, of course, but just their relationship. But again, if you remember, he's mentioned again in the third one, even though she does kill him in the first one. So, going back to the relationship, in the third film, there's a scene where she's in the set of her old bedroom, aka the most meta-fucking scene setting ever, and she sits on the bed and remembers an encounter she had with Billy, but in a reflective, quote-unquote, I know he's fucked up and ruined my life, but I did love him for a moment kind of way. And this scene alone is like her reminiscing the relationship in that moment, rather what the relationship meant to her before the truth came out, right? Because again, like I said, they dated for 2 years before anything in the first film played out. She even says the line, that famous line, would you settle for a PG-13 relationship, out loud. And mind you, this is about like 4 to 5 years after she killed him. So I argue that the film, one could argue, like, okay, this is the final installment of the trilogy. She's just remembering how this all started. It's not necessarily about him. However, I don't think that. I think the reason I chose this couple in this specific scene to talk about is because I think there is and was a deeper connection between the two. They both lost their mom. Yeah, the circumstances were vastly different, and she even mentions it in the first film, because he kind of throws that at her. And again, we all know why and how. but before the truth comes out, they do have that connection. They can relate to one another and understand why he can be so standoffish or has so much rage, and she has issues with intimacy or trust. Again, they're scared of losing another person that they love. They're scared to get that close to someone because, again, they both lost their moms. Furthermore, this was their first, like, deep connection, like saying love to one another for the first time kind of, thing. A little bit, not quite 15-year-old kind of how you said it, but, 18, 19, you're a little more grown up, you have a little more independence, and you're starting to realize, okay, I need to make connections outside of my family because, not that they're never, like, not always going to be there, but, that's what happens in lives. Yeah, you can't fuck your family, exactly. So, but think of that relationship, though, right? Kind of how I mentioned before. I don't really mean, like, it's my favorite toxic relationship. It's the idea of this relationship. But, like, think about it, right? What I'm trying to, like, that in asterisks, right? Like, the first big one, the first time you felt that connected to another person and that, like, visceral, I fucking love this person and I've never felt anything like this before kind of way. You don't necessarily still love them. They may not still be in your life, but they're always going to have that place in your life, right? That's who Billy is to Sydney. Now consider the circumstances revolving their relationship, right? Billy fucking killed her mom. Jesus Christ. Talk about, like, I am really, truly shocked and surprised that Sydney isn't depicted as more fucked up. Like, that's just intense, right?
Hello, Sydney.
I do have to say, exactly. I will say though, I dislike. So I was on like Scream Wiki and I was reading about. There's a page about the relationship which I disliked it because it all revolves around how she loses her virginity to him and that's why it's an important relationship. No, I kind of didn't like that, and they specifically said, like, I'm reading the entire quote from the thing, the website, but it says, she defeats Billy by thrusting him with an umbrella, thrusting her finger into his wound to symbolize quote-unquote reverse intercourse. Yeah, no. Like, that does happen, but I hate the importance being put on the fact that he was her first / she lost her virginity to him. Like, she lost her mom because of him. I think that's a little more important than that, you know?
It would seem a little bit more important.
Like, you would assume, like, continue.
Well, sorry, but that's the kind of thing that, like, when you're a kid, like, and again, maybe even into your 18, 19 years old, like, your virginity is, like, the most important thing for whatever reason, right? I mean, obviously we're conditioned that way, but, like, your virginity is, like, this thing that is, like, supposed to be sacred and like, all this other stuff. You find out later in life, who gives a fuck? What matters is your mom. Like
exactly.
Like, your mom dying matters way more than who the fuck you lost your virginity to.
So
like,
much
who
more.
the fuck cares?
And honestly, I think at that point, like, yeah, you know, especially if you, like, I grew up super Catholic, and, you know, yeah, I understand, like, that's something people still to this day think, like, oh, like, I'm saving until my marriage and my husband or my wife. Like, yeah, whatever, good for you, but, like, that's not me. But
nice.
more so, I think, kind of what you said, like, yeah, like, we are conditioned to believe, like, that's something sacred and important. I kind of think, as teenagers, again, we're growing, we're hormonal, all this shit's happening to our bodies. We forget at a certain point that, or maybe it's just like the cooler kids. I don't want to say the cooler kids, that sounds terrible. But there's more importance on the whole having sex as opposed to, like, being virginal. Does that make sense? Like, it's not so much, oh, unless it's like, nah, like, I had sex, like, yay, high five, you know? Like, I did it. Right. It's like a milestone. It's like an accomplishment, or a, what's the term, like, in video games? Like, fuck, I can't think of it. Anyway, what's the thing?
Well, no, now I really want to know.
When you...
What is the term?
Accomplishment. No.
Oh, yeah,
Achievement.
Achievement. Thank you. Like, achievement unlocked.
Boom.
Sex.
Boomsies.
God. I hope my mom's not listening. I think
Coach
she
D
is.
made dick in the worms.
Coach D made stick in the worms.
Oh, man. But Again,
They call me DJ Pendejo. Anyway, sorry, Michelle, go ahead.
Much. I love Coach Steve so much.
Oh my god. Also, I couldn't stop saying "Oh Billy" the entire time I was reading.
Oh Billy.
But so yeah, but you know what I mean as far as like that relationship. Like maybe like I saw a meme while I was trying to like find other examples of trying to relate, but we've seen How I Met Your Mother, right?
Nah,
Yeah.
not at all.
No, yeah, Ernie, I know you have.
I was literally
Yeah,
watching
I
it
have
today.
to, yes.
So you have to, so there was this meme I saw, and it was a picture of like Robin, and it basically said like no matter who you date or blah blah blah, like everyone will always have a Robin, right? Like that person who,
Oh boy.
again, you did like date them, but like they're always in the back of your head, right? They're always kind of there. Again, how I kind of worded it with Billy and Sydney, like that was who Billy was to Sydney. Again, so
It's your lobster. Yeah.
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 And there's also this theory that I read. You sound so
Yeah, it's
sad.
fucking lobster. God damn it.
Well, real quick, cheers to lobster. I just got my prosecco.
Yeah,
so
let's take a fucking shot real
Valentine's Day
quick
cheers.
before you finish your
Yeah.
screen thing.
But,
Cheers.
Cheers.
To the never having loved being better than having loved and lost.
Cheers to that. Fuck yeah.
While you guys cheers, I'm gonna tell everyone about the new DVD shit.
Oh yeah.
The movement is different now, the way that they run, and the way that they like watch. Like in a little bit, I'm gonna hurt this girl, and the way that she runs, it looks like she has to go poop.
And it makes you slower, or it just looks shitty?
It just looks like they look. They look
I see what you did there.
like they're going slower,
Thank you.
but they're really not.
Oh, for sure.
It just looks like they gotta really like drop a load.
Fucking make a hefty deposit. Well, pay attention to that so that Michelle doesn't lose her momentum on the screen stuff, and then we'll check back in once we get to another break after she's done with Billy and Sid.
Oh, Billy. So, yeah, just continuing. I don't know. I hope you understand, like, as far as that person, who that is in the relationship, etc. But just continuing. Blah, 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 the whole importance on the virginity we have, whatever. We already talked about that. Also, real quick, can we talk about how she is, to me, the epitome of, like, the final girl archetype in horror films? But
yeah.
she isn't a virgin? Like, that is the coolest thing. That's kind of rare. They're out there, but that's rare. Let's see. So the last kind of thing I have to say, again, there's a theory I also read online that Billy never really loved Sydney, that he dated her, one, just for sex, and two, to make it, to, like, really hurt her when it's, you know, eventually he tells her that he's the one that killed the mom, right, etc.
This is very
Do you
interesting.
agree? Because I don't.
Ooh. So
So-
I don't have like a strong stance either way, because I think both are very possible. But I am very interested in what you think, because you're like the most into Scream of anyone I know. So
I do love me some Scream. So I don't agree, and this is why. I mentioned it in the beginning, right? I said that they dated 2 years before anything in the first Scream goes down. And all the films, like the timeline, as far as like everything is like chronological. You're told how many years are in between each film. Again, like the first to the second, it's just like a year difference because she's like in high school and now she's like in college. Again, everything as far as the timeline, it's in order. There's no like skipping around like 10, 15 years, etc., right? Until the fourth one, but again, I'm just talking about like the main trilogy. All that being said, if that were the case, if he really didn't love her and he only dated her to, you know, make a point or to just use her to later abuse her or whatever, I don't think he would have dated her for so long. Like I said, they dated for an entire year before he killed the mom, maybe even longer. I don't think dating her was planned. In Scream 3, her brother Roman admits to finding her boyfriend. And yes, he refers to him as her boyfriend, does not call him by his name until later when he's revealing the entire plot, right? Because it was all him. It all started with him, right? He's the one who found Billy, exposed the truth about their moms, etc. So this means at this point, when Roman told Billy, hey, your dad and my mom, etc., right? They were together for at least a minimum of a year before Roman brought out the lunacy in him. Let's just call it that. But we do see, like, Billy struggle to, like, distinguish the boundaries between fiction and reality due to, like, his horror film fanaticism that's gone, I guess, too far, right? Like, there is a moment at the end of the first one where he's just, like, kind of going back and forth in his own head. So, like, maybe I can see, like, there's this hint of I'm a psychopath in him. But I do not, because of the amount of time they were together before anything happened, anything went down. Again, a minimum of a year. And I think they did, because, again, they both lost their moms. Mind you, that's after, you know, that was kind of his fault. But, yeah, but he waits an entire year to tell her, like, you can't, like, why wait until the anniversary? Why not just, like, go ahead with the plan and kill her and just say, fuck it? Like, that takes a lot of restraint to do that. So anyway, all of that aside, I don't think that's the case. I really do believe, with the timeline and everything laid out and how long they were together beforehand, before Scream 1 happens, you know, that there is a relationship there. They were the first, like that, you know, that ness, you know? And so much so that she is actually, again, in the third one, there is that scene, and she is actually reminiscing. There's not, like, a look of fear. It's like she really is, like, lost deep in thoughts. And I think because of that, that is who Billy is to her. Also, real quick, Billy is fine. God, there's something just inherently attractive and seductive about Billy.
You mean besides his chiseled jawbone?
Jesus Christ. I mean, can we talk about that for 45 minutes? Because, oh my God. But, like, more so, like, the character, like, not the actor, but, like, you know what I'm getting at. It's, like, this scary attractiveness, this, like, I'm gonna crawl through your window but respect your boundaries in a way, blah, blah, blah. Not gonna lie, the first guy I slept with reminded me of him, and yes, that's come up in therapy before, but that's the end of me and Billy.
I think that's a fucking great point, Michelle, because there's like Scream was not trying to teach us a lesson about toxic relationships. Like there can be an element of that. You can try to, like, interpret it in any kind of way you want. Even when you're talking about the intent of the writing, there may have been some element, but ultimately people were attracted to Sid and Billy because people are attracted to toxic traits. And that's not everybody. Again, there are people that are attracted to perfectly healthy individuals that are in healthy relationships, and that's fine. But I think it's pivotal to not shame people who are attracted by toxic things and toxic people, because you don't fix the problem that way. You don't fix the problem by shaming yourself into being like, you know what, I'm going to be with someone. No, the shame just makes it better. The shame just makes it hotter. Like you have to really understand why you're attracted to those things, and then find someone that attracts you for those same reasons but treats you correctly. Like that. Exactly. That's the way to fix it, as opposed to just completely denying. Like, no, I don't like toxic people. Yeah. Like, no, it's fucking hot. Like the whole killer thing, the lying thing, but it's super hot, and there's a reason that people loved it, and it's because it was super hot. So, like, let's not try to deny that part.
Yeah, most definitely. And again, I know I mentioned this a lot, but there's something about, again, both horror and sci-fi films do this best. It's about taking something in normal everyday life, like toxic relationships, right? And just putting this, like, spotlight on it, making it, like, hyper realistic, or, you know. And I feel like their relationship is that, right? Because he kills her mom. I can't stop saying that. But again, it's making it to like this obscene kind of like outlandish. It's taking it out there, right? But at the same time, it's still relatable. It's still, we love that couple. We love those characters. We relate to them, if anything.
Absolutely.
But yeah, thank you so much for saying that. Yeah, let's not just like pretend we don't have these like toxic tendencies or like, because again, like everyone is flawed. And that's kind of what it comes down to, and that's why this relationship is flawed, and we relate to it, and it's okay. Just like what you said, just see it for what it is, define it, or not define it, but try to define it within yourself, within your relationship, and then just like go from there, grow from there, learn from there. But yeah, I love Billy and Sue.
Well, I think that was very well put, and I think that there's a lot of depth to that relationship, that it's very difficult, to kind of capture the, like you said, like you didn't want to talk about the other movies, but there is something there that that continues after the first movie is over, that adds to the depth of what's going on. So, yeah, that'll be Sid and Billy Loomis. Well, not Sid Loomis, but Sid
Prescott.
And Billy, Loomis. They will. So we have our first two couples gone. We are going to take a little bit of a drinking break. Also, talk to Ernie about his experience with the people that are shitting themselves, and then we'll move forward into our second round here. We're making pretty good time. I think we can get to everything. It just kind of depends on what we do here. So if you're also like, just because if you're listening, if you want to jump in, we'd like to know what we missed. Sincerely, truly. There's gonna be, hopefully at some point down the road, hopefully next year we'll be doing a fucking Valentine's episode. So we want to know what we missed. We want to know what you would have wanted to hear about. We want to know what you're going to want to hear in the future. We want to know who your favorite horror couples are. There's a lot of like, when I did my own kind of personal just asking people, I got a lot of like Jack and Sally, and like I get that. Again, hot topic, just fucking fuck that dog hard with the fucking Jack and Sally stuff, but. And then the Edward Scissorhands romance, and even going into like Beetlejuice and that stuff. I get that stuff. Totally valid. It just isn't my bag as far as the romance stuff is concerned. But we'd love to hear your opinions, so let us know. What is going on with this elephant?
Oh yeah, tell us about this elephant, because I was just staring at it.
Oh, it's the clown.
No.
Yeah, it's the clown. His little costume. See, he's a clown.
Oh my god. That's so terrifying. I want that costume.
You want to see something adorable that they made? Let's see. Let me find it. I gotta find it here in the little rift. Hold on.
Is the squeaky toy coming from the clown as well?
No, that's my dogs.
I know.
They're fucking...
Quick shout out to Cesar, who's listening in his office. He brought me the bottle of Prosecco. Fuck yeah. Thanks, Cesar.
Cesar, happy birthday, Cesar!
Happy birthday, Cesar! Woo!
They made a little Mr. Puddles charm.
Nice.
Oh. Can I buy that?
I don't know, actually. Maybe. Probably on Etsy somewhere.
Yeah. What's it called?
Mr. Puddles.
Oh, I love it.
This outfit was actually made by like just the DVD player. Like they submitted it. It's like a contest and they won.
Wait, no shit. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I can play as a clown now. They changed him, so see if it's any good. I just don't have much on him. Yeah, fuck it. We'll make it work.
Well, then the next couple I want to talk about are the couple from Midsummer, and Christian's a fucking clown, so maybe that can, I mean, we've already discussed it on the podcast. I think that was like the first big like I went on a rant episode that y'all did with me.
Yeah.
And y'all know how much I despise that motherfucker. However, fun story. I'll talk about it later, but I found some trivia, I guess, about the actor because I started hating him because of his character, which, you know, it's not fair, but whatever. But I actually like him now, and I'll tell you why later. Wow, that looks creepy. Sorry. Like the elephant head with that outfit. I do like the polka dots. That's cute, though. Oh, shit. You just made it worse.
He has a belly.
Is this clown based off of any clowns, like in any sort of like films or TV shows?
Nah, not really. I read the story with him. He pretty much just, like, was a psycho and, like, killed people and ate their pinkies. Or ate their fingers.
Sounds delicious.
Speaking of that, let's see if I can eat somebody's pinky. Or fingers.
Please don't!
Wait, you can do that, though?
If I use them more, yeah.
This is a public service announcement. You may think people don't need their pinkies. That it's absolutely false. People need their pinkies so bad, and you couldn't possibly understand how badly they need them until you don't have one.
My bad.
Tell me more. I think I need some examples.
My
Be
bad.
as descriptive as possible.
My bad.
Well, so when you think like you have like a nice grip on things, and like you know, like you don't think like, you know, what work could your pinky possibly be doing that my other fingers couldn't like do? And the answer is that it's doing everything. All of the balance, like your other fingers are like making sure that the strength is there, but your pinky's all about that balance. It's doing everything it can to make sure that whatever you're grabbing, whatever you're holding is a balanced situation. And you would be surprised how much you miss that when you don't have it.
Mm-hmm. Got it. That actually makes a lot of sense. I see that.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. The next couple that... Well, I'm going to take another drink if you are at home and you'd also like to take a drink.
Filled my glass. So
Awesome.
I shall...
There you go. Yeah, so I'm gonna have a drink here. I feel like this has gone really well so far. We'll hope to continue that moving forward. Thanks for everybody that's showing up now. Thanks for the people that have been here since we started. Really appreciate you guys. Happy Valentine's Day tomorrow.
Yeah. Happy Valentine's Day tomorrow.
It's the crawl frawl.
So today is actually a holiday as well.
It's Galentine's Day.
No.
It's not a Father's Day.
No. It's Desperation Day.
Oh yeah, Desperation.
Alright, so what bar are we going to later?
Later. I'm just kidding.
I had a date at Eve this week.
I kind of did too, I guess.
No, you didn't. You had a fucking romp. You had a roll in the hay at Eve.
I don't know what happened, but that just sounded hilarious. How about it? What's dating like nowadays?
Sucks.
A fucking nightmare is what it is.
Jesus Christ.
It is a certifiable nightmare is what it is. But that's right. Fucking.
Well, I'll share Seth's side if you want. He's pretty nice to hang out with.
Will you now? Does Seth, I don't know is he on board with that proposition that you're going to share him?
Well, he's listening in the other room. I don't know. He'll either come out and like
he could object if he wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see it in the comments. If we see nothing, then he's down. He's down a clown.
Heyo.
Oh my god. This is devolving quickly. Yeah, so we're just took a drink. We're gonna go ahead and go into round 2 here. Very, very excited. My second couple that I'm gonna talk about is actually the first couple that I'm or the couple I'm most excited about talking about. Because of a lot of reasons. But just up front, my second choice for this evening is Oscar and Eli. It's actually like Yeli, but it's actually just easier to say Ellie. So Oscar and Ellie from Let the Right One In. Let the Right One In is a Swedish film from Switzerland. No, it's from Sweden, obviously. It's a Swedish film that talks about a young woman who is a vampire and a young man who is bullied into having some like killer tendencies, and they meet each other and they fall into young love. There are some complications here because the 12-year-old girl is actually like a 100-year-old woman. She's like perpetually 12 because she's a vampire, but she's been alive for a very long time. So, right off the bat, the problems that you're looking at are there's a very obvious theme here that can be addressed early and should probably be addressed early, but there's also an element to this whole thing of trying to break a mold. So the first thing that you're going to notice is that Oscar has no powers. He's just like a normal human being. And Ellie obviously does not, or does have these powers. She can fly, obviously has immortality, she doesn't age at all, and she's like very strong and things like that. Typical vampire stuff, can't go out during the day. What this is an obvious role reversal from countless and countless and countless. Keep in mind, they didn't make these films. It's just the way that it was. The damsel in distress and the male hero figure. This is just a reversal of those things. Oscar needs Ellie to save him. There is a modern balance of shared duties to save one another in certain parts. He does, to be fair, he does save her life, not once but twice. But really it's more about a spiritual awakening, and it would seem that Oscar has the more coming of age depth to the movie than Ellie does. Obviously, coming to age as a vampire is very different. So there's, like I said, those are the main themes of what's gonna happen. Here's the side plot that I have to give a scope of the whole movie in order to talk about this. So, spoiler alert. There is the feeling the entire movie that Ellie is using young Oscar, because Ellie lives with a man who she obviously calls her dad because she can't tell people that she's a vampire. And this man is, his name Hassan, and Hassan is this older man, and what he does is he kills so that she doesn't have to, and he drains people of their blood so that she can drink it. When we meet Ellie the second time, not the first time because she's too far away for us to notice, but in the second time that we see her, she's very beat down. Her skin looks pale, she looks sick, and you find out eventually that that's because she has not eaten blood, and it's been too much time since the last time she drank blood. So, and then we find out that Hassan has to go and he has to get blood for her, and ultimately it is not only his demise, but at the same time the fulfilling of his purpose. There is a part of him that always knew that the last thing that he would do would be to give his blood to Ellie when he couldn't provide the blood anymore, when he couldn't provide her a body or fresh blood. And you can presume that Hassan was once Oscar, that he was once a young man that fell in love with this girl and has then now dedicated his life to finding her next meal. This plot point is made incredibly obvious at one point, where when he's about to go out, and he really has a feeling, because he knows people have seen his face and stuff, And so he really has a feeling like this is going to be the last time that I'm going to be able to do this. People know who I am. I'm too old to run. And he asks her, he says, please, can you just do me one favor? And she says, yes. And he says, please don't go with that boy tonight. And he like leans down to her and she touches his cheek in like the most warm, loving way possible, and she walks away, and she doesn't go that night with Oscar. And so that for me is like, first of all, it's heartbreaking. There's going to be a lot of themes here of young love. And if you've ever been a young man in love with a girl who doesn't love you, or who maybe, loves somebody else, this feeling of rejection, this feeling of moving on, it can be devastating. It can be devastating. And even though he himself isn't young, the love is because she is. And so he has this devastating moment. There's also moments of young love dynamics. At one point, she tells Oscar at the very beginning, we can't be friends. And he says, why? And she says, does there always have to be a reason? We just can't be friends. And that's the kind of thing where if you experience rejection at that kind of young age, it really has an effect on you. And at the time, he wasn't even he didn't even think of being romantic. It in every description that I read about the movie, it calls her androgynous. It's like an androgynous vampire. I got that she was a girl from the very beginning. There's also a point where she says, I'm not a girl, but she's not saying she's not a girl. She's saying, I'm a vampire. And at one point, Oscar is able to, see that she's a girl. So all of that is, there's a discussion there, but not a whole lot of substance, and it doesn't matter. But anyway, lots of young love. There's this thing with Hassan that happens, and so the whole time you're thinking to yourself, well, this is kind of fucked up. She doesn't even accept, she doesn't even, really get interested in him until the night that Hassan dies, and that she, feasts on his blood. And then she goes and she gets into bed with him, and they get closer, and he asks if she'll be his girlfriend, and whatever. And so there's that feeling, except that our young Oscar has a better ending than Hassan did, because of the fact that there is literary characters. This comes from a book. And after that book was over, the author wrote an epilogue and put it into his short stories that he wrote, and he put an epilogue in there because he didn't want people to think that was the case. And what happens in the epilogue is that Oscar eventually agrees to become a vampire, and so they go off literally into eternity together. And so she wasn't using him; she was truly falling in love with him. Truly does fall in love with him.
Wait a goddamn! So I remember watching this years ago. And I wanted to rewatch it before we had this episode, but I didn't get a chance to, because of my things. But that everything you just said, that epilogue, that's not in the film, right?
It is not. The
I
film
didn't know
ends.
that. I know it's based off of a book, the novel, right? Which is the same name.
Right. Let the right one in.
And then that author also wrote. I know he wrote the screenplay. I'm losing my goddamn mind right now. Sorry. Holy shit. Okay, continue, please. I'm into this.
So what happens is that you find out that if you read the epilogue that there's parts in the book, he doesn't say it in the movie, but there's a part in the book where she straight up asks him, she's like, you don't just want to become a vampire with me? And he's like, no, I don't. I don't want that. I can't imagine being a killer forever, and I don't want to leave my family or whatever. Well, and then there's work in that where his family eventually proves themselves to not be that great. And so eventually, but in the epilogue, so the movie ends with she's in a box with him on a train, and you only see him on a train with a box, and then she taps in Morse code, kiss, and then he taps back, little kiss, and that's how the movie ends. They're off into whatever. But the epilogue in the book shows you that no, he wasn't just gonna meet the same fate as this other guy. It wasn't her using him. She was truly in love, and they eventually have their own eternal love story because he agrees to become a vampire. And he actually becomes a vampire in the same way that he almost became a vampire before, which is that he wants them to have a blood bond, and so that he cuts his hand, and then she, like, drinks the blood instead of, like, mixing her blood with it because she doesn't want to infect him with vampirism. But eventually that's how they do it, as opposed to her biting him and draining him of his blood. They just infect his blood by cutting their hands and putting their hands together. And so there... Go ahead.
No, yeah, just, one, I didn't know about that epilogue, and one, I have, again, like I said, I saw this a long time ago, and when you mentioned it, I just, like, quickly read the plot to just remind him, like, oh yeah, I totally remember, I definitely remember that last scene with, like, I love the whole, like, the Morse code, like, the tapping, like, kiss and then, like, little kiss, you know, like, that was cute, but, you know, there's always a part of me is like, I don't know, man, like, maybe there's, like, ulterior motives here, like, maybe you should run, you know, like, that kind of, like, going back and forth, but I was still always on, like, her side, weirdly. I mean, I'm a woman, so, yeah. Anyway. But it makes it both, like, absolutely adorable and also very, like, aw. Like, I don't know. Like, it changes the movie slightly for me. Because for me, it was kind of just like, I can't word this properly. It's just blowing my mind. I had no idea. Mind you, I did watch this years ago. But that's pretty fucking cool. I will say this is one of my favorite endings to, like, a film. I don't know, it was, like, adorable. It was, what's the term? Endearing. It was endearing. I think I need to go back and read the book. Again. I have it somewhere. I'm gonna go find it.
Well, I think that the book, like, there's themes inside the movie that if you watch closely and you do your own interpretations, you'll get, you know, it's not hard to pick some of the things up, but obviously the book kind of explains the significance behind you have to invite a vampire in, and what that means to our young couple.
Yeah.
It talks about the dynamics of young love and how that's complicated by immortality and those kinds of things. But I think, you know, if you're just talking about the movie, first of all, there's an American version of this movie. It's called Let Me In. Of course it is. And it's terrible. It's so fucking bad. It just, like if you're gonna do that to a movie, why remake it? Like the original film is so fucking good. That there was just no reason to, like, go and name him Owen and make his mother an alcoholic, and there just wasn't any reason for that, but they do it anyway. Don't go watch it. Watch Let the Right One In. Also watch it with subtitles. Don't watch it dubbed, because I don't know how anyone does that. But the young love thing changes. I know. the young love part of this whole thing is, it changes a lot for me. It changes a lot for me when you know that it's not going to be a one-sided thing, that she's not using him, that he eventually accepts immortality despite his reservations because he wants to, like, be as close to her as possible. Like, those things, it does change it a lot for me. And if you want to talk about like one side or the other because you're a boy or a girl, my situation is obviously having of young love is obviously being on Oscar's side of it and not Ellie's side of it. There's certain, like, other coincidences there. Like, I'm attracted to very, like, powerful women. I'm attracted to very smart women, and so, you know, there's an element of that for him as well. Like, she's obviously more powerful than he is. He's in a position where he's 100% vulnerable to whatever she would want to do with him in that moment, and she trusts him anyway. And if you're thinking about that in the context of he trusts her even in his most vulnerable moments, but they end up together, it's very different than he trusts her in his most vulnerable moments, and then she uses his life force until she sucks his blood. Like those two things have a very different connotation, and they have a very different context and outcome. And I don't think that if you're watching this movie as a young man, there's so many things that you feel, that this movie makes you feel, that you also probably have felt in real life. And there is they make that, they put such an emphasis on it. It's hard for me to say how much they put an emphasis on those emotions, on those feelings of not just young love, but rejection and being young and being bullied. There's huge tones of power dynamics and bullying, and what power dynamics mean to bullying, and how power dynamics affect male and female relationships. There's an older couple that is pretty prominent in the movie that you see a lot of power dynamics being discussed on film, and so there's a lot of layers, there's a lot of talk about young love, but I think, this couple, I like this couple because of the hope that young love brings you. I think that it's easy to be cynical about romance. I think that and trust me, it's easy because I do it every day. I think that it's easy to be put off by your past experiences and think that, love is either going to be this one thing forever or whatever it is. But the fact is, ladies and gentlemen, that people fall in love every single day of the year all over the world. And not every single one of those couples is going to break up. Not every single one of those couples is going to have this terrible divorce, this terrible separation. There are couples that make it all the time. And your love story is never going to be perfect. Someone's always going to be an asshole at one point or another, and there's going to be fights and all that stuff, but the hope that lives in young love is eventually the force that keeps love alive. It's trusting and loving this person and having faith and hope that they're going to make good on their promises. There is no way, children, that you could ever be 100% sure that someone's going to fulfill their promises, that someone's going to actually mean what they tell you, that someone is going to love you forever, or even love you in the way that you love them. None of those things you're not entitled to any of them. None of them are promised. But in young love, there brings hope and faith that those things can be true. These kids are beaten down in other parts of their lives by the world and their situations, but they find each other. They're each other's light in this darkness. And if that isn't what young love is about, I don't know what it's about. I don't know what it's about. I don't know what it is besides having this crazy amount of hope and faith and really having a chance, because neither of you are damaged or jaded yet. And I'm not saying that you can't make it in later. I obviously have to hope that you can meet someone later in life and have that same, deep connection. But it is something that I guarantee you look back on, and there's some nostalgia there, and there's some fear that you're never going to get that again. That you're never going to experience that in the way that you did when it was young and you were undamaged. And of course, those things aren't true either. But of course you have those fears. Of course you have, those reservations, and you have to power through them in faith and hope as well. And so I love this couple because of those things. It's a fantastic movie. I can't, I encourage you to watch a lot of movies. This is just going to be another one of those movies where I really think you should watch it. If you haven't yet, there's so many reasons to do it. Aesthetically, it's incredibly well done. There are a couple of shots that I really fucking hate, and I'm not going to go into those because I don't have time. But for the most part, I really love the movie. If you've ever been in love as a young person, if you've ever been bullied, if you've ever felt alone, if you've ever felt like an outcast, this movie is going to make you feel things. And it's going to make you feel some bad things and some good things, which, again, that's what fucking love is, man. It's feeling good things and bad things, but eventually trying to have an experience that makes you better. And I feel like this movie is a microcosm of that experience. And so I'm very pleased to have chosen Oscar and Ellie, and I'm glad to be telling their story, and I really enjoyed watching this movie. I really enjoyed taking notes on this movie. I have way more notes, but I feel like it's important to move on and to try to give us a chance to talk about all of the things that we prepared ourselves for. So that's going to do it for me on Let the Right One In and Oscar and Ellie.
That was great.
Thank you.
So
That was so good.
the American version, I think I've seen that one. Like it kind of okay.
Man, I think just like I was having this conversation with somebody recently. I I like horror in the story. I like the subtlety of horror. So if you fucking take this beautifully subtle movie and you add a bunch of fucking jump scares and alcoholism and that kind of shit, I'm never gonna like that product. So like I think maybe on its own maybe I would have liked it, but having seen Let the Right One In and then watching Let Me In, like there's not even a comparison for me personally. I guarantee you there's someone out there that's like, I like the American version better. Of course you do. Because you like The Conjuring and you like fucking Annabelle, and that's fine. But it's just not my cup of tea.
I think I just liked it because fucking the girl from Kick-Ass is in it.
Oh,
That's also true.
Grace Moritz? Is that her name? Right, something like
Chloe Grace Moretz.
Moritz, yeah. Chloe
Okay.
Grace Moritz.
Yeah, that's the only reason I think I liked it, because she was in it.
Well,
That was
either
great.
way.
I like the it's kind of like not lingering, but this this idea of like the hope, and again I guess it keeps coming up, like even though like we will go through things and just tough things, like things that happen in life, and if you're in a relationship, like sometimes it seems like it's like amplified, right? Because like it's not just like you dealing with this because you're in a relationship, it's like both of you kind of having, not to deal with it, but like one of you's like going through something, the other person's like, how can I be there type of thing, and this idea of like kind of what you were saying, like young love, the like innocence before you become like jaded and just very like and I'm definitely I like, mind you, I fall into the anti-Valentine's Day club, like for sure. But again, I guess it's also like yes, I'll say that out loud, but in my head I'm like, oh, I hope I get a gift or some shit like that. Like it's still
Caesar.
like, yeah, I mean, you already brought me my prosecco. I'm good. Like that's all I need. But you know what I mean, though. Like I'll have this like, but I guess it's like also me protecting myself because I've been wronged before, because I've been hurt before, because I've lost people before, and that part's not fun. But no, that was really great. I really want to go and rewatch this now. Just that last scene, I absolutely adore it. Now I'm having issues though. I don't know of my two couples left, which is to kind of go like follow that with. Like I can. I'm gonna follow that up with. I'm gonna follow it with Daniel Robitte and Carolyn Sullivan from Candyman. If you don't know the name Daniel Robitte, it's because you probably know him as Candyman. So I'm gonna talk about Candyman. Which, going off of your thing, I think it kind of goes along a little bit better, flows a little bit better, the whole young love. But in the most fucked up kind of way where like race and like murder is involved, right? So quick little history about Daniel Robitte, who we know more so as Candyman. So he was born Daniel Robitte. He was the son of a slave who came into a lot of wealth because of a successful invention. So he grew up like in really going to really good schools. He was comfortable like financially, and he was a phenomenal artist, right? And there was a high demand among the wealthy in his community for him to paint their portraits, and that's kind of how he ran into Carolyn Sullivan. So Carolyn Sullivan was, again, this was around like the 1800s. This was in New Orleans, right? She was the daughter of a wealthy landowner named Hayward Sullivan. So they met after Hayward commissioned Daniel to paint a portrait of her because she was known to be like the most beautiful woman in town. Like everyone in their community, just that's all they ever did was gawk and talk about her beauty, right? However, it was a portrait, right, that he like hand painted. So they spent a lot of time together, and during that time they fell in love, and she became pregnant. Her father found out about the love affair, gathered a lynch mob, and chased Daniel. So again, I just want to get into the history part real quick, then move straight to like the coupley aspect of it. But the history part is really important because that's when, again, we as an audience never see any of their relationship actually happen. We never see the love, like them embracing each other. Them, all we ever kind of see are tiny little like glimpses of, or like the bad parts, which is once the father finds out that she is pregnant, they're having an affair, or not an affair, they're just in love. But again, he was the son of a slave. He's black. She is white. How dare they? Or he, rather. Of course, it was all his fault. So he gathered a lynch mob, chased him down. When they caught him, they tortured him, of course. They cut off his right hand, which they kind of replaced with a metal hook. They didn't do it to, like, really replace his hand. It was more of like a, how can we hurt him more? Because, again, he was a monster. Like, how dare you defile this beautiful, like, woman that we all want to gawk at and, like, admire, right? Like, how dare you, you black man? So they did that to kind of, like, show him, like, look, you're a monster. Fuck you for doing that, right? Like, how dare you beat us to what we wanted to do? And then, besides that, he was smeared with honey from a nearby apiary and then was attacked with a multitude of bees that just stung him repeatedly. During that, Hayward, the father, taunted him by showing him in a mirror, like, his face being disfigured, and basically showing him, like, look, this is the monster that you are. This is what happens, right? To, you know, to your kind, and look what you're doing, etc. So Carolyn finds out this is happening. She eventually gets through the crowd and tries to stop this cruelty. And her father basically has two people stop her, and they basically stare at each other, and she watches him die in agony. And before she runs away, she takes the mirror from her father, and in the second film, you actually do see her bring it up. I'm not a fan of the other films minus the first ones. But she keeps the mirror and she sees his reflection in it. And I think, again, a lot of people miss this. I was talking to this with my sister, which I think I've mentioned before. She's terrified of Candyman. Like, not just Candyman, like, I mentioned Tony Todd, and she's like, shut the fuck up. Like, that's terrifying. But no, that's like a very important part. Again, like, she saves the mirror, in which, you know, all of that, like, the mirror plays an important part. So after Daniel's death, she actually bought the plantation where he was born and raised. And, again, she was pregnant, and she gives birth to their daughter, Isabel. And she buys the plantation in efforts to show their daughter everything about her father, as much as she could, right? To keep the father in their lives. In the second one, we're shown Daniel's certificate that the main character, Annie, who is a great-granddaughter, like, it's like their family home. And that's where she was born and raised, which you learn later that that's where also Carolyn raised Isabel. So again, they're just trying to keep, it just shows, like, the extent that she went to keep Daniel, aka the Candyman, into their life, into their daughter's life, right? So, hold on, sorry, I mixed my notes, blah 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 blah. Okay, let's just skip all of that again. Daniel Robitte, aka Candyman. Let's get into, like, Helen Lyle, which I think there's this weird, I kept calling it as I was writing my notes, like the supernatural love triangle, right? Between the Candyman, or Daniel, Carolyn, and Helen. And Helen is, again, the main character in Candyman, who's a grad student who's, like, researching urban legends, right? And she goes to Cabrini Green, which is a housing project. The reason why Cabrini Green is so important, again, that didn't exist when Daniel was murdered. That was just a location where it happened, and it just so happened that they built this housing there afterwards, and it is now, unfortunately, the, like, most poverty-ridden part of town, right? So, yeah, let's talk about that.
Josh?
What?
Oh.
Oh, did it cut out? I'm so sorry.
No.
It sounded weird on my end.
I don't think she wanted me to talk about it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no.
That's because she did a pause, and I was like, "Is Josh?"
I have too many notes on this, so I'm literally trying to, like, go through it and just get to the important parts of it. Right? I wrote, again, like I said, maybe 3 pages on just this film, but a lot of it's, like, film. Like, the plot as opposed to, like, the couples, right? Or the couple. Okay, so it's important to talk about Helen because she fucks with, like, the entire, let's say, the balance of Candyman with the Cabrini Green community, right? The idea is he is a myth and he exists there and he still has power. Think of, I mean, I don't know, have you read and or seen American Gods? Right? It's like this idea of, like, all
Neil
these
Gaiman.
old gods. Exactly, yes. So all these old gods that still need to be worshipped or at least, like, talked about or mentioned.
Fuck yeah.
Right? In order for them to continue to live. But what
Hell
the main
yeah.
character, Helen, then does, because she's a grad student, she learns about this, and she's going basically just sticking her nose where she shouldn't be fucking doing that because it causes shit to happen within the community. There are 2 deaths of 2 black young men that happen because of her snooping around. She then later gets attacked, but then because she is a white woman who gets attacked, all of Cabrini Green gets kind of locked down. They find the killer, and it's this guy who has a hook and pretends, or rather is using the myth, the lore of Candyman to do his bidding, his killing, right? But again, he gets caught. She goes and says, yes, that's him. So then Candyman then appears to her because of her kind of, like, she understands, I guess, why the guy was caught, and she's like, well, it's fucked up, like, 2, like, black younger guys died because of this other cat, but because I'm white. So she understands and acknowledges her privilege, but at the same time she's like, I am a hero because she's the one who ended it all. Well, no. Candyman comes and basically, like, seduces her, and that's the thing. When Candyman appears, he urges Helen to become his victim, almost as if he were, like, speaking to a lover. So all of their interactions are very sensual and very seductive. Like, no one should be that turned on by a bee-covered ghost. Anyway, he tells Helen that
heard you were
because
looking for Candyman, bitch.
Exactly. But it's so just, like, how he, like, appears, like, behind her on her shoulder. So anyway, so he tells Helen, like, because you exposed the real killer, like, not him, but more so the guy pretending to be me. She caused, like, a sudden rift in his world. The belief in him by hundreds of people is what allows him to go on living. You know, again, a lot of American Gods vibes.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then now he's in danger of ceasing to exist because of that. So Candyman is a myth, right? And again, he needs that kind of the storytelling to continue for the existence. And it's the vocal denial of him that finally brings the actual ghost out and shows himself to Helen because she doubted his existence. And now he is asking her to, 1, release herself to him, but 2, also shed innocent blood. She says no. Well, fast forward through all the crazy shit that Helen is framed for. She returns to his lair in Cabrini Green and looks at the walls in his lair and realizes that through the paintings that he's made on the walls that she's herself, she's the image of Candyman's lost love, Carolyn Sullivan, right? So this makes this whole circle back to that. And again, a lot of shit goes down before this can actually happen. But this is, again, the important, like, relationship, or as I called it, the supernatural love triangle. Because that is not her, right?
Right.
Helen is not Carolyn, but there is something in Candyman, like, he didn't immediately kill her as he kills other people around her. Again, he is trying to convince her to just, again, as he says, release yourself to me so you can be a part of my legend, my story, my myth, and live with me, through people talking about us, right? So he sees her and sees Carolyn, right? Basically, there's a lot of, again, like, classes, like race, undertones and overtones, rather, that play along throughout the story. Again, he is killed because he is a black man who is the son of a slave who falls in love with, like, a wealthy white woman, and how dare they, right? But then Cabrini Green, where all of this happens, where his soul is stuck, where his myth lives out, is, the bad part of town where it's mainly, like, people of color who live there. And again,
is it going to play into what Jordan Peele's doing?
Yes, it is. Because, so, let me finish with the whole Helen thing, right?
Yeah, sorry.
So, no, you're good, because that's a great point. So again, he sees her, and what I'm trying to get at is not a lot of white people show up there, right? And when Helen first shows up, there is a woman who lives there who sees her and is like, oh, hell no, like, I don't want to talk to you. Anytime white people show up around here, bad shit happens. Guess what? Her son then goes missing. So yeah, it was true, right? And again, her son goes missing because it's part of the whole, I need you, Candyman telling her, I need you to, like, spill blood. And again, she was pregnant, so in his mind, he doesn't really know whether or not, like, again, it's this whole idea of, like, there was a baby when he died, or, like, she was pregnant and they were in love. It was, it was also young love, the first love. Like, all of that is just, like, it all comes back to him. And
right.
He's basically just like, I need to overtake you. I need you to be a part of my story because we've been apart for so long. So when he's at, Helen's at his lair, and then she hears a baby crying from somewhere nearby, realizes that it's Anthony, the baby of that neighbor who said, oh no, when white people show up, that shit happens. And it's basically at the top of this huge, like, pile of garbage that the residents of Cabrini Green burned for a bonfire. So this is important because as soon as she realizes that he believes her to be his lost love, she hears the cries of the infant, remember everything he said to her before, so she's like, okay, I'm fucked, I'm dead, might as well, like, go and try to save the baby and try to put something back to place because I should have never fucking been here. As she's climbing in the bonfire, she sees Candyman, impales him with, like, a burning shard of wood. Happy ending? No, actually. You think that she somehow kills, this ghost. But no, none of that happened. We later see that the guy that cheated on her while she was in the hospital, because all this crazy shit that goes down, he says her name in the mirror 5 times, and she appears to him a la Candyman. Thus, she does become part of his story, his myth, his lore, his, all of that. So, again, going back to the whole, remember how I talk about how horror films are really hyper-real, I don't know the term that I'm looking for. Basically, like, puts a spotlight on something for the sake of social commentary. This is a huge part of that. Like, huge. Especially between the commentary between Daniel and Carolyn, versus Candyman and Helen. Helen doesn't know Daniel. Helen knows Candyman. Caroline knows Daniel. Caroline does not know Candyman. Right? So it's this idea of, like, race and elitist, like, being elites. Like, even though Daniel was from a wealthy home and famous for his paintings, he was still black, and he was son of a slave, and therefore less than a white man. Hence the father's vicious response. Meanwhile, Daniel was technically, like, higher in, like, social statuses than Helen, like, if you take that into account. But anyway, it's all about the white privilege and all of this, but however, Candyman still doesn't see that. Like, he still sees, like, oh, that's my lost love, that's Carolyn, that's whoever the fuck she is, I can turn her into Carolyn, I can make her part of my story, the more people talk about it, the more we'll live on together. And yeah, she helps by locking up a killer who's pretending to be Candyman, but she also disrupts the quote-unquote agreements among the residents of Cabrini Green, and Candyman. She only fuels him and his story more, and she becomes an additional quote-unquote boogeyman under his story that's, again, like basically fuels him to continue living. And of course, in the one that Jordan Peele is, I think he's just an executive producer or writer. I don't think he's directing it. That comes back. Because again, Tony Todd does come back, but I don't know if this is like a spoiler alert, you can read this anywhere. There is a different person who is like playing the role of Candyman. Again, it's like this idea of it being passed down from person to person. So again, as much as the love story here, the relationship is about Carolyn and Daniel, there's a huge part with Helen and Candyman, and basically like her, I guess, continuing that kind of, like, he is this lost, let's just say like a lost soul, a hurt soul because of everything that happened to him, and he's just trying to find his lost lover, and it's not happening, it's not working out, and Helen goes and basically just disrupts everything. There's this whole idea of like class, like social standings, etc., and of course race, which I think now, that's important to talk about. But yeah, I think for me, I keep calling it this supernatural love triangle. The more I talk about it, especially now that I said it out loud, I think it really is two separate relationships, that of Carolyn and Daniel versus Helen and the Candyman. But yeah, I think also every interaction that the Candyman has with Helen, it is very overly seductive and like sexualized, and like at one point he's just like floating above her, kisses her, and then all these bees just pour into her. Like, it's this so like, I am entering your body type of way, but not in like a sexual way, just like a fucked up I'm a ghost kind of way with bees. But that's Candyman and Helen.
That was a lot. That was a lot.
I know. I was trying to make it shorter. I'm sorry.
No. It's very good. Very good. I think if you are familiar with the movie, it's probably easier to follow. But since I am, I definitely picked up what you were putting down, and I think again, like, romance is not this thing inside of a vacuum. It's not this thing that makes everything magically better or happens void of all this other shit. It's something that you have to make work inside of all of this other crazy shit that could be happening to you at the same time, whether that's a lynch mob or a spooky figure appearing in the mirror, and even that stuff. Even it's not hard to believe that someone who was lynched and then turned into this fucking essays. It turned into this thing where you're put into like a different place by all this stuff, that no matter what's happening to you, not only is romance going to still, whatever romance you're in is going to still affect you, but it's something that has to survive inside of this place where all this other stuff is also going on. And so I think it's important. I mean, there was romance between, first of all, there was rape between white people and slaves, but there was also romance that would happen later on in life, and these people had to run for their lives, and these people had to completely hide their relationships, and these people had to live in constant fear, all because they loved somebody, and most often it did not stop them from either loving these people or expressing their love because of these circumstances. And so I'm glad that you brought that up, because the rest of this stuff, there was no worry about race relations. I mean, a vampire and a human, I guess, but there was no, the controversy inside of Paranormal Activity, for instance, was very like external, and they were not facing fucking enemies within. And so I thought that it was very well done, and I think if you watch the movies, probably easier to follow, and I have, so it was. We're gonna take.
Should have probably. I don't know. There was how much. Again, I was going back and forth. Like, how much do I talk about the film versus do I just assume everyone has seen it?
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I think that
absolutely.
backstory, as far as how he became Candyman, is kind of overlooked because you then have this Helen person who goes and fucks everything up. I hate that she's like seen as a hero at the end. I don't agree with that, but yeah, I tried.
No, I thought it was very well done.
Yeah, thanks.
And so we move into our final break. We don't have a ton of time. I was discussing this with my fellow podcasters earlier. It's not that we don't like have time to give you. It's just like I personally have a clock. Like I get burnt out on things. I don't have like a super high attention span as it is, but because I like put so much into what I'm doing throughout the week and how many hours of research and writing, by the time I get here I'm like very excited about it and I want to talk about it, but it's not easy. It's not easy to fucking put your all into these kinds of things and then just keep going forever. I think if we were to just keep going and going and going, it would take away from what we're doing, and so I like to keep us within the 2.5 hour mark. And with our next stories, we will for sure be hitting that area and where I personally just get burnt out. And so I have one topic left. I know Michelle has one topic left. We were going to do a shared topic that we felt like would be better to wait for another day. So thank you very much for tuning in, and hopefully we will talk about like use that as like motivation to keep tuning in, that we're going to talk about this thing that we've already discussed wanting to talk about, but we're not going to let you know what it is. Jesus says that it's just me or Josh and Ernie have a lisp today. That's that joke is 100% inside baseball. So if you don't get it, don't feel bad. And Eric is here. Hello, Eric. I fucking love you, buddy. I miss you. I just got my second vaccine yesterday, so maybe you and I can kick it sometime soon. I missed you a lot, dude. He said Candyman because he's talking about the list that we were very inside baseball. Very inside baseball. Hello, Eric. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're watching, dude. I love you a lot. Same for you, Jesus, but I saw you yesterday, so I don't need to tell you those things in addition. And so we're going to take a little bit of a break here, and he's going to fill us in on what he's doing, how he's doing, what his kill count is for the day, and we'll be preparing one last drink here, and we'll get into our last stories. I am also going to run and take a very brief bathroom break, and so I will be back here in a couple minutes. In the meantime, enjoy Ernie and Michelle. I'll see you right now.
Yeah, Ernie. Tell us everything.
Yeah, so I'm just, fucking up playing. I'm not doing a good job today, if I'm being quite honest. It's just rough, this whole new fucking movement. It's kind of weird. Like, it kind of fucks with my eyes. And it's just weird, I don't know. There's like so many people complaining about how terrible it is that I'm pretty sure they're gonna revert it. But who knows? They spent a lot of time making these changes, so
yeah,
reverting may not be an option.
I can imagine. But this is like just the movement. It's not the killer, it's just the survivors, right?
Yeah, they're trying to make it more like realistic in the way that they move.
By them almost pooping themselves.
Like, they're supposed to be like running like they're like hurt and like, I don't know how to say it, like
just like something happened, they can't just run at full pace. Yeah.
And like they just made it look like they're fucking, oh, I gotta take a shit. It's pretty bad.
Well,
like, watch right now, this fucking, when I find this bitch, she's gonna look like she has a shit. See, like, oh, gotta poop.
Okay, that was a weird part to come into.
Talking about the survivor movement. Oh, they look like they got a dookie in their pants.
Did you already go over what Caesar has said? Caesar says when Chuck Norris says Candyman 5 times in a row, no one appears. Candyman is stupid. That's pretty good. Alright, so we're going to take one last drink here. Everybody that's listening, if you want to take a drink with us, you're obviously more than welcome to do so. We encourage it even. Like I said to the audience before, if we missed a couple, just to recap, we talked about Ellie and Oscar from Let the Right One In. We've talked about the Candyman paranormal triangle, Devil's Three-Way. We talked about, actually I guess it's just a normal three-way. We talked about Mika and Katie from Paranormal Activity. We also talked about Sid and Billy from Scream #1. So if you have any additions, like things that we obviously missed in horror movies, couples that we obviously missed in horror movies that you're like, whoa, like, how did you guys not talk about this? Please let us know. Let us know who your favorite horror couples are, your favorite couples in horror movies, and we will happily discuss them very briefly at the end of the episode, and then maybe do some episodes moving forward. Like I said, thanks everybody for listening. Please make sure to like, subscribe, tell your friends, fucking share, whatever you can do to help us out. We really appreciate it. And now we go into our drink before our final segments. So cheers everybody, thanks for stopping by. Happy Valentine's to you, everyone that's listening. If you've got that special someone in your life, congratulations, and cherish them and love them. If you don't, hit us up, we will be drinking. So cheers everybody to being to alcohol. How about that?
Yeah.
That works.
It always works.
I want to know really quickly, what's Ernie's favorite couple in a horror movie?
Ernie and his ex is his favorite horror couple.
I don't know about favorite. I'd say
Ernie's the one that comes to mind. Or I don't know, he can relate to.
Josh is gonna hate me for this. I don't know if I can relate to it. Maybe, I guess. I don't know.
Is it Chucky?
Yes, it is.
Yeah!
Really? First of all, I want you to know I could never hate you. I do want you to know that I can think the choice you made is not the right one. So, but I get it. I get it.
Did you see what Seth had real quick? So sorry.
Cheryl and the tree. The Evil Dead. No, it's very good. It's very good.
I like that one.
I would have also accepted the little sister from Hereditary and the light pole.
Jeez.
There's a lot of good stuff that we could really have people getting on there. Yeah, so let us know. Let us know what you think. Thank you, Caesar, for participating. And we're gonna move forward here just again for the sake of time, and so that maybe if you guys put some stuff down there, we can eventually get to talking about it. My last couple, and it's my least favorite couple, but I also think it's very important to talk about, and that is the Warrens from the very famous Sinister Insidious movie trilogy Bonanza. There's more now, but they are a real life very famous couple that did a lot of supernatural investigating. They were full-time. Let this sink into people. Like, if you don't believe like in a very specific dream you have, you're like, this one thing that I really want to do is never gonna work. Fuck that. These people were full-time paranormal investigators. They went, and demonologists. They call themselves demonologists. And that, I mean, if there's a fucking cooler job in the world, fucking hit me up, because that sounds like the coolest fucking job ever. And so we get into, I'm still doing it wrong, right? It's not Sinister or Insidious. It's, The Conjuring. The Conjuring. Yeah. I thought I had said The Conjuring, and then I was like, something's wrong. Like, I'm still saying something wrong. The Conjuring is where they're from. So, The Conjuring and their fucking, stuff afterwards. There's a bunch of Conjuring movies that take place in the Conjuring universe. A lot of that is based on real life stories that the Warrens endured. So, they're not going to say that they happened. We're not going to say that they didn't happen. What we're going to say is that they are claimed to have happened by the Warrens. When you get into stuff like The Nun and whatever, like, or is that also the fucking Insidious universe? Am I fucking tripping?
No, that's the Conjuring universe.
Okay, thank you. When you get that stuff, no, that's completely different writing. There's also a terrible La Llorona movie based in the Conjuring universe. That also bullshit. Like, they never fucking had a run-in with La Llorona, and also don't watch the movie, it's terrible. But they did have, Annabelle is based on things that they experienced firsthand. The first Conjuring, the second Conjuring with the devil made me do it. All of that stuff is based on things that the Warrens have claimed. Now, there's an important point that I need to make here. We have two paths in front of us, ladies and gentlemen. We have a left path, and the left path is that all of the things that I'm about to tell you that the Warrens have told the world are true. And the right path, Mels Infantons, is a path in which all of this is bullshit. My argument here, my presentation is going to tell you that no matter if it's all bullshit or if it was all true, this is an incredible love story. And now, I'm going to tell you why. So, let's pretend that all of this is true. Is it the better love story? Of course it is. It's got all the elements of a good fucking classic romance. There's intrigue and fucking controversy, and there's obstacles that they overcome, and there's this giant, immense connection between these two people that keeps them sane and together while all of these things are happening. It's a tale of romance in which Death by Daylight, we live in this realm. We exist in this realm. Death by Daylight doesn't exist without the paranormal, without the other. Quote unquote, the other. I want to put this term into the world. I want this term to be the definition of what we discuss on this podcast. It's the other. Some of it is very real, all too real, the serial killers and stuff we talk about. Some of it is made up, some of it's in literature, some of it's in movies, but it's all the other part of this life, of this world. It's not the expected, it's not the normal, it's the exception, it's not the rule. And so without those things, it's hard to claim, if all of this is false, that the Warrens have this true love story that they do if all of these things are true. But my thing is that what is more otherworldly, what is more unconventional than having this bond with somebody where you collectively agree to lie for the rest of your lives for profit, and then neither of you breaks and you both just die? Like that bond is just incredible. Like, that has to be so, like in order to pull that off, you really have to have a special relationship. You have to face lies, and you have to face people doubting your whole life story. You have to face accusations of fraud and what you have to. The world is against you. The world is closing down on you, and you have to, as a collective, the two of you, face this and decide that no matter what happens, you're still gonna say it wasn't me. And for me, that is as good of a love story as anything else that you're going to encounter if it were true.
Like, there's like regular like relationship commitment, and then there's like that level of commitment of like, this is what we say that we do, and we're gonna stick to it, and we're dead. Like, that was her life. Like, that's fucking intense.
Well,
I've never done.
well, and so the term, right, is partner in crime. The term, the what's romanticized is okay. So Bonnie and Clyde somehow have a deeper connection than the Warrens if it turns out that the Warrens lied. No, I would argue that it's a very similar connection, immeasurable as far as which one is stronger than the other, but both viable and can be used as an example of love. Love is not always this thing that happens between two excellent fucking people who are both outstanding members of society. It's not. Oftentimes, love happens between two fucking criminals, or a fucking crackhead and a pimp, or a fucking, you know what I mean? Like there are stories of love that can be beautiful in their own way, that can be important in their own way, that don't follow the even the remote convention that we've talked about so far.
Okay.
And the Warrens follow what?
Can you please explain to me how love between a crackhead and a pimp is beautiful?
Yeah, I can, because crack and pimping are both incredibly difficult, yet they continue to love each other through those fucking the trials and tribulations of pimping hoes and smoking crack.
Yeah,
And
it goes back to the whole idea of, like, you know, the toxic relationships. How, like, if you can, like, see it and recognize and define what it is, then you can kind of, like, go from there. So I think in, you know, the whole pimp and hoe relationship, you know what's going down, and you still agree to do it. Maybe one pimp is better for you than another. Maybe one hoe is different for you, you know? So I think that also our previous conversation ties into that as well.
Jesus says, Hobo Soup Kitchen, Dirty Mike and the Boys.
Thanks for the F Shack, Dirty Mike and the Boys. No, I strong hand in the turkey. Strong hand. No, and that's the thing, is that I think the bond between so like, if you're in a relationship, or like, let's say it's your sister that's in a relationship that she's a crackhead, she's in a relationship with a pimp. Of course, that's not beautiful. Like, that's your sister, and you want what's best for her. But could it be cinematic? Yes, it could be. Could it be the subject of a novel and still be beautiful? It could be. And I think that's what we have here with the Warrens. Whether it's true or it's not true, and I am going to run down the list of the things that they claim, right? But I think it's important to note that part, it's just about flavor. Is it the flavor of love, thank you, that has to do with lying and being criminals and frauds? Or is it the flavor of love that has to do with being connected by this deep force to be able to combat the devil and Satan and evil? One of those sounds more romantic than the other, but in the real world application, they're both equally beautiful. And so the list of things that they claim to have stepsister. No, that's not beautiful.
God damn it.
No fucking Jesus, dude. Trying to derail me. He's trying to derail me.
It's somewhat working.
No, yeah, it is. It's totally working. So we're talking about Ed and Lorraine Warren, the Warrens, who claim a lot of different stuff that they've been through. The most famous ones that you're going to recognize are, one, the Amityville Horror. They are the people at the center, not the people that it was happening to, but the reason you even know about the Amityville Horror is because the Warrens claimed that all of these things happened, and then it was put into books, and they were made famous. And all these things, by the way, there's not 1 second, one hesitation of them claiming that it's all true and that it all happened. Annabelle. So Annabelle is based on a real event where a Raggedy Ann doll, was thought to have been possessed, and there's a whole book about that. The Amityville Horror. The Enfield Poltergeist is the one where you're gonna kind of think that they're assholes, because these people did not want the Warrens involved. As a matter of fact, when the Warrens showed up to the estate in which the Enfield poltergeist was thought to be happening. They were told to please leave and never come back. Yet there's this long, lengthy story about how they tried to intervene to this story, which the other party claims is 100% false. We've also got Cheyenne Johnson, who was accused of killing his landlord, and eventually claimed that he was being possessed. And the Warrens investigated and said there was evidence of demonic possession. The rest of the investigators around them and the people involved with the case said, this is fucking disgusting. They're giving this person a pass for killing somebody by buying into his fucking delusion of demonic possession. The Smurl family, Union Cemetery, also big names. The one that's there's a movie called The Conjuring. I think it's The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. And the Conjuring 2 is The Devil Made Me... No. Yeah, it is. It is The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, which actually is supposed to come out this year or came out this year. And then The Conjuring 2 is the one about the Enfield poltergeist, which, again, those people say they were never even in the house. So there's a lot of people disputing what they said. But here's my last point about this. I'm not going to go into great detail. Go watch the fucking movies. There's 1,000 of them, and there's a reason they're there so that I don't have to talk about them tonight. My main point was things I've already brought up, which is whether they're criminals or whether they're demon fighters, it's still pretty awesome, and they're still very in love, and that's still fucking badass. My last point is going to be that we need people like this in the world, ladies and gentlemen. Mes enfants. We need people like this in the world. We need people who are relentlessly in pursuit of an answer that only a few people are giving. This kind of mentality, this kind of tenacity, you can't coach that. And that's the kind of thing that has gotten people off that were not guilty. And nobody fucking believed them except for a couple of people. But those and people that believed them and said they weren't guilty thought they were fucking crazy. And it turns out that they weren't fucking guilty. Sometimes it takes 20, 25, 30 fucking years of constant, unrelenting work for these people to prove that these innocent men weren't guilty. And we need those kinds of people that have that commitment to the paranormal. We don't know. The whole appeal of paranormal and everything else is that it's unknown. We have no idea. But as convinced as the Christians are that God exists, as convinced as any religious people in the world are convinced that their religious figure is the right person, we need to be as convicted that there are other possibilities than the ones that we see and the ones that we expect and the ones that have been explained. Now, I want to be very clear that I'm not talking about, like, COVID deniers. Fuck those people. There's such a thing as, like, science, like, there's an evidence of science, and the whole different scenario is, well, a bunch of cops said this, so it must be true. Those are two very different fucking things. And so, Holocaust deniers and COVID deniers and fucking people that are still supporting Donald Trump, no, that's not what I'm talking about. Fuck them. But I am talking about things that are much more up for debate. What happened to Eliza Lamb? What has happened to people who have lost their fucking minds and ended up into sanitariums or anything else? Those people need advocates. Those people need help. Those people need people to believe whatever story that they're saying. And so many of them turn out to be, there's something else. There's mental illness or there whatever there is that made them say these things and do these things. And that's unfortunate. But for every 1 in 100 cases, the things that these people are saying are true. And we need people like this to advocate for people like them. And so, again, regardless of whether or not it happened, these people were committed to listening to these people's stories. And these people were committed to exploring the possibility of the other. And that makes their love story a great love story.
So
that's it for me.
just look at the chat.
Warren Sapp, go Bucks. I heard Warren Sapp had a lisp.
I was trying so hard not to laugh because you're getting super passionate in there. But...
I can get super passionate about Warren Sapp too. So it was the first Bucks jersey I ever had. It was a '99 Warren Sapp jersey, and he does have a little bit of a lisp. To be fair. You son of a bitch, I see. But yeah, that's my spiel on Ed and Lorraine Warren and their real life exploits as well as what is portrayed in The Conjuring.
I like it.
Thank you.
It was fun. No, I mean, as when you kind of started it with the, they're my least favorite, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. And then, bam! You just, like, got all poetic on us. I'm like, oh, shit. I was prepared for that, but, yeah. I don't know why I was confusing, like, as far as the universe. Hey! Don't be on that! Sorry. Sorry.
Caesar, what are you doing?
Caesar, no! Please! We know it's your birthday, but please!
Stop. I don't care if it's your birthday.
Not again, Caesar!
God, at least wait till we hang up. No. Wow, sorry, that just totally lost track. No, that was fantastic. I was saying, I was confusing the universe that they were in. They're in the Conjuring, right? Not the, like, Amityville? Or is Amityville a part of that?
No. So the Amityville, they're the subject of the Amityville, but it's not technically a part of what they're doing with the Conjuring. They're two, as far as cinematically, it's completely different universes.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Whoa, like, I like it. I liked everything you said. I feel like we need to get on their level, Sessa, as far as, like, relation. We need to find something, exploit it, make money, but as long as it doesn't hurt anyone, then it's fine. Yeah, I guess it's my turn. Last one, real quick.
Yes, please.
Of course I chose Danny Arder and Christian Hughes from Midsommar. So, I despise Christian. He is a piece of shit, gaslighting, manipulative coward. And that's it. That's all I got. So, good job, guys.
Caesar says the world is my urinal.
Yeah. But no, yeah. So I'm going to talk about Danny and Christian real quick. As Ari Aster, the director-writer, described it, this film is about a breakup. He went through a terrible breakup, and that's what inspired him whilst writing this film. So Danny and Christian are like a troubled couple who rarely show any affection. They've never even kissed in the film, unless you've seen the director's kiss. They have one tiny kiss, and that's about it. But think about, like, seriously, go back and think about the film. When are they ever, like, embracing or being, like, loving and, like, anything? Like, even if it's, like, them by themselves in their apartment, like, it's just, it never happens. But let's just start with how many times Christian could have gotten out of the relationship, because that's the one argument I get all the time, is that, oh, Christian stayed because Danny just went through this whole thing with her family, so he was doing it to be nice, you should give him more credit. No, fuck you. He could have been an adult. Like, literally every conversation he has with Danny was a good time for him to get out of it, if it was just that much of an inconvenience for him, because he was just gonna, like, put her through more stress, more just, doubt, more, just fuck with her, like, mentally, emotionally, etc. And he just didn't want to do it. He didn't want to go through the tough conversation during the tough time, and that's life, dude. Like, it's tough. So shit, toughen up, grow a vagina, tell her the truth. Maybe it could have saved your life. Probably not. Taking this further, let's pretend he had, like, that's to say something like, oh, well, I'm going to Sweden, sorry, you gotta stay. Well, let's think about it like the film. Would we have seen what happened in Sweden? Well, no, because we see the film from her kind of point of view, rather, through her grief, her vulnerability. We're the only people, the audience, who see her have her panic attacks, because she always goes into like another room to have said panic attacks, or she leaves the group. Would she have been invited if it wasn't for Christian's pitiful invite to like cover her up the fact that he was trying to get away from her? No. Again, every pivotal point in the film is related to Danny, and in turn Christian, because of their relationship. That creepy yet enticing sex scene with Christian, Danny is directly related and affected by it because that is her boyfriend, right? So again, I'm trying to make this connection of everything, big event that happens, every like point of no return, or just whatever happens in the film, it's all connected to both of them. Because again, Ari Aster wrote the entire film revolving around the relationship, not the other way around. He didn't write this like big, like, oh, this group of friends are going to Sweden and shit's gonna go bad. Like, no. He wrote it from, there's a relationship, it's about to end, let's start it in the most fucked up situation possible, and hence we have Midsummer. So, that's like an example of how the relationship kind of just is being interweaved rather with like the main story. Like you have the first act of the film, right? The entire beginning with Danny and her sister. It's quickly overshadowed by the deteriorating relationship because she's responding to her sister's ominous email while she's on the phone with a friend, complaining about Christian, how he's not supportive, and just like she has that conversation with him, but it didn't go how. You could tell there's just something's not connected. Meanwhile, Christian's eating pizza with his friend, and his stupid fucking friend Mark scolds him by saying, like, you've been wanting out of this relationship for a year. So, again, it's been a year, you're not about it, then do something about it, right? It's his lack of doing anything or admitting he was wrong that's just so frustrating. And you see it, like, when she finds out that they're actually going to this trip to Sweden, that, she makes the example, like, oh, well, what if you find out, like, I was going to Japan for, like, 2 months and I leave next week? And he's like, well, actually, Danny, it's just for 2 weeks and it's to Sweden and blah, 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 and I already told you about it. And then, he knows he fucked up, but instead of saying, hey, sorry, I should have told you, hey, you're right, I was wrong. There is never any point where he admits to just being fucking wrong. And it's so hard to watch. It's so irritating. But yeah, I did have an argument with someone, and they argued that they never broke up and that she just killed him. I say bullshit. I think she broke up with him by choosing him, rather, to be the sacrifice. So, high five, girl. I think, again, by doing that, they break up, and then he dies. Uh-oh.
Hello? You guys?
Shoot. Hello?
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Josh, you there?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sorry.
I can hear both of you guys.
Okay.
We're all good now?
Should be.
I think we're good.
Okay. At least it wasn't worse.
Okay. So sorry, not sure what happened. Don't remember where it sounded weird. It sounded like crackling and then just stopped.
You were talking about how he had every opportunity in the world to like break up with her way before they got to the tragic event that happened to her, and he didn't do it, and he wasn't an adult about it.
Okay. Damn it. Why does this always happen to me? Let me go back. Sorry, everybody listening. Did I talk about my example of like the first act of the film when Danny's dealing with her sister and she's emailing, but she's like talking on the phone with a friend.
You have not.
Damn it, I was trying to be fast too, because I know we're running out of time here. So yeah, I'm just gonna skip part of it. The breakup? Okay. I see breakup. So, okay, so I was gonna use this as an example, which was the first act of the film, right? The entire beginning of the film when Danny with the emailing with her sister, that's quickly overshadowed by her deteriorating relationship, right? So she's responding to her sister's ominous email whilst on the phone with a friend complaining about Christian being the shitty boyfriend. Meanwhile, Christian's eating pizza with his friend, and Mark scolds him by saying, "You've been waiting an entire year, or you've been wanting out of this relationship for an entire year." It's like, fucking do something already. And it's his lack of doing anything, admitting he was wrong, and that's the thing that gets me the most, is that, when they go to the party and she realizes that he already has a ticket, he's going to Sweden, right? But she's the example, like, what if he found out at a party, like I just did, that I'm going to Japan for, like, 3 months, and I'm leaving next week?
Yeah, he diffuses that part.
Yeah, and he's just like, well, it's actually... And I fucking hate that. Well, actually, it's just like this and this, like for X amount. And she's like, well, that's not the point. And it's like, he can never admit to being wrong about something and just say, yeah, you're right, I'm sorry. Right? That's just so hard. And what I was saying is, I had an argument with a friend, and they argued that they never actually broke up and that she just killed him.
Yeah.
To which I was like, bullshit, that she breaks up with him by choosing him to be the sacrifice. And then they break up. So that's basically all I have on, like, them two, but I can't really talk about that film without mentioning Danny and Pele, because I'm rewarding them the cutest couple award. Yay! Not really, but I do think their relationship, though it's not romantic, it's important to the plot, but it also changes in dynamic, like, the dynamic between Danny and Christian makes Danny see Christian because Pele confronts her about him. In conclusion, Danny's the sweetest person ever. He did not have ulterior motives. He just wanted to help her, and he realized that he had something to offer her where Christian was just awful and took her for granted. That is me.
Oh, boy. I mean, we've had this discussion before.
Yeah, I know.
I feel like Pele's a snake.
But more so than Christian?
No, but does that make it better?
I mean, if you want to talk about, like, being in a relationship and saying, look, I know Christian was wrong because of ABC, and Pele's over here, only doing C and D, I don't know. I'm trying to defend this.
Yeah, I just think that it's honestly hard for me to, in my head, be like, you know what, like, just because one is a fucking snake and the other one's a snake, that makes it somehow better. I think that if you're trying to, and I'm not on a fucking high horse about this, because as Ernie knows, it's happened in my lifetime. If you're sniping after somebody's girl, you're not doing the right thing. And no matter what way you justify it in your head, that's not the right thing to do. And again, I guarantee you, there are millions of stories on the planet where people are grateful that the guy overstepped that boundary, and now they did find their one that they love, and Jesse's girl works out. Jesse's girl! And he ends up, like, fucking, like, being the right dude, and she's the right girl for him and all that. But that doesn't make it okay at all. It doesn't make it okay no matter what. Consequentialism is no way to go about thinking about ethics. It isn't. Consequentialism is a very, very slippery slope into justifying horrific acts that make everything else seem at least okay. And the truth is, and again, I'm not on a high horse, the truth is that no matter what the outcome of Danny and Pele was, or even Danny as an individual, what Pele did is not the right thing to do. You don't go sniping for someone who's in a relationship. But I think that's a perfect place to, like, cut the relationship part of it. Like, you'll get, like, I'm gonna, like, go ahead and fucking tear me apart, and then we're gonna, like, wind down to the end of it.
Cool. So the other day, I was discussing this with Cesar, and he was like, basically having the same argument. He was like, "You're just arguing this because you think Pele's hot," and I was like, "Yeah, he is. So much so, like, more than rather than Christian." And he's like, "Okay, so then just say that." I'm like, "Okay, it's that. That's it."
Hey, and for me, that's like that's an argument that I totally accept. I was having this conversation. Ernie and I were actually having. I'm sorry to throw you under the bus, buddy, but Ernie and I were having this conversation recently where we were like, it's fucking stupid to deny that just, like, straight up attraction has, like, it doesn't have a lot to do with what's going on, like
No,
constantly, and
yes.
so, like, yeah, like, I can accept that, like, one's just hotter than the other. Again,
Like,
people have divorced each other for a lot less.
a lot
like,
less.
you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like I get it. I just, like, as someone who has been in a position where I was like, you know what, true love makes this okay, and I can do this because true love is a thing. It wasn't, and I was the asshole, and the rest of my life I will have been the asshole because I believed that it was, like, an okay thing to do if the end justified the means. And I just don't agree with consequentialism and ethics ever because of so many fallacies and holes in that kind of ethics and logic. So that's just where I'm coming from. But
Yeah. I totally, and yes, I'll definitely say yes. I very much find Pele very attractive, and yes, I'm, like I said, like with Billy as well. Like I said out loud, like, find him stupid attractive. I think, the whole thing mentioning, like, yes, this has come up in my therapy before. The whole,
yeah, Billy
everything
Loomis,
I just said, yeah. But I think, just to end the whole thing, why I just despise fucking Christian so much is, and in relation to Pele specifically, I think my biggest argument is that I can see Pele, like, saying, like, yes, I was wrong, here's this. But meanwhile with Christian, we have all, like, 2 hours of the film of him just, like, basically just anything she says just, like, batting away, or, like, throwing her, like, saying, like, no, this, or oh, actually this, or just, and it's just the most frustrating thing to me.
don't you think that also has to do something with his attraction to her by the end of the film, or by the point in the film where they're at that place? Like, he just doesn't like her anymore. He doesn't care about her. He's not attracted to her. So, like, why would he concede that he's wrong? Like, especially, like, again, I think the argument can be made that as much as he had the opportunity before, that's the fucking past. I didn't do it, and that makes me a coward. But the fact is that when I wanted to and I was building up the courage, your sister killed her and your parents. And I don't know what to do about that, and I don't know what you want me to do about that. So let's not get into the whole Midsummer thing again. But I totally see where you're coming from, and I think that's a great example for Valentine's Day. I think it's a great example, like, all encompassing of everything we've talked about as far as realistic expectations from love and the way that it's depicted and all that. I think that Midsummer, I think it's poetic that he describes it as a breakup film, because if you're if you're my mom and you watch this film, the last thing that you ever think about is the love story. You're just so horrified by the burning bear and the group orgasm and the shovel to the back of the head and the pissing on the ancestral tree that you never really pay attention to the love story. And if you're us and you've been fucking desensitized by all this shit, then you do think about the love story. It is about a breakup, and almost solely about a breakup.
Very much so.
All right.
I agree. I like this ending. This is a good ending.
Yes. Like most good relationships, this is having a good ending. Yeah. Well, so we've come to the end of our episode. we've come to a place where I'm very happy with what we've talked about. I'm very happy the things that we covered, the amount of ground that we've covered. I'm very happy the range of love that we've covered. Breakups, and we've covered young love, and we've covered old love, and we've covered realistic love and marriage and divorce and all of the things that go into romantic being that a lot of things outside of the horror industry fail to discuss in a way that is relatable. And I again, I hate to bring up my mother twice, but my mother often wonders why I'm so like how do you watch horror movies? How are you so into horror movies? And my answer 100% of the time is they cover things that all other movies cover, but I give a fuck about the story as opposed to like someone having my problems. I don't give a fuck about people that have my problems. Like, I have my problems and I'm fucking dealing with it and I hate it, but I deal with it. I care about people having problems with like demons and shit. Like that's the couple problem I give a fuck about. Not if you know,
like almost like appreciative of your own problems, because it's like, oh shit, at least I'm not dealing with like this demon trying to go after my entire family. Like, I just have like terrible anxiety and episodic depression, you know, like that's fine, I can handle that. Demon, fuck, I don't know.
Excellent.
Hey, demons,
Very
it's
well
me, your
put.
boy.
So that's the end for us here. Thank you for liking, thank you for subscribing, thank you for telling your friends that we are here every week, that you can go back and listen to our episodes, that we're proud of almost all of them, and that we are trying to do big things in the future. We have said since the beginning that COVID would not dictate whether or not we were going to be here, but kind of dictate the way that in which we did certain things. With COVID now slowing down and us having opportunities, we are going to try to do like an actual podcast in addition to a stream. We're working on a lot of things, and so we're trying to expand our brand, we're trying to expand the podcast, we're trying to get into like a bigger picture of podcast as a network, an El Paso thing that we do, and we're hoping that it all comes up Millhouse sooner rather than later, but that's it for us. You guys can say what you need to say here. Go ahead, and then I will, whenever you guys are ready, I will sign off.
Well, I kind of just started a match.
Oh.
So.
Well then we'll hang out for a little bit, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can hang out too. Well, so we've got some stuff coming up for you in the near future. The first of those things, not the first as far as like when, but priority is Silent Hill. We are discussing it because there's so much that goes into it. We, a couple weeks ago, kind of broke down what we're getting into and how. All of those things are going to be exciting for me personally. I really, really like... I really like the story, and I like the video games, and I like the video game, like the person that is responsible for like creating the video games. We're going to get into all that stuff, but ultimately it's going to be about showcasing Pyramid Head. We've got all sorts of cool stuff coming out for you guys. Michelle is going to talk to you more about why Christian is an asshole, while I again use the restroom. I'm drinking a lot of water. I'm trying to stay hydrated, and I will be back very shortly.
Christian is an asshole. Right, Ernie.
Yeah.
So I just looked up real quick. I was just wondering. Well, two things. You've seen Labyrinth, right?
The
movie with Jennifer Connelly and David Bowie.
Yeah.
So I was asking people, like, before this episode, like, oh, what are, like, movie couples that, like, come to mind? Like, think more horror. And I had a friend say, oh, the Goblin King and Sarah from Labyrinth. I was like, well, one, that's not really horror, but two, she's like 15, and he's a grown-ass man.
Yeah,
like,
that's pretty creepy.
There's no, like, coupley things. And then she broke down the entire scene. Like, do you remember the ballroom scene with, like, the masks? Yeah, so basically she kind of fucked up that movie for me. I don't know
Yeah,
why.
that's kind of...
It just came to mind. But I mean, nothing happens. So here's the thing. It's based off of is it a book? Yeah, it's like a novel or some shit. And in that, they do actually kiss in that specific scene or something like that, right?
Okay.
But whilst making the film, Bowie was like, she's literally 15. That's not fucking happening. Like, I'm a grown-ass man. So... yeah, but still, there's a lot of worded out by that. Anyway,
that would ruin it.
Yeah. So another couple though I wanted to bring up, but instead, because Sid and Billy are like everything to me. Gale Weathers and Dewey, right?
Oh yeah, that's true.
Like I could have talked about them for hours, but like it's like the whole on and off again, on and off and off. Also, have you heard any more information about Scream 5?
I have not.
No.
Is it?
Okay, all I know is Nev. So basically, Sydney, Gale, and Dewey have all signed up for it, but I haven't heard anything else. But that's very exciting to me.
Yeah.
Let's see. So, do you think the movie The Mummy is a horror film? Because they're saying that Rick and Evelyn are like the epitome of like horror film couples. I know, right?
I wouldn't think so, no.
Okay. What about Evelyn and Lee from A Quiet Place?
Who is that again? Sorry.
A Quiet Place, the one where like no one speaks and you can't even like eat potato chips because that'd be too
that fucking
loud.
Big ass demon will fucking get him.
Yeah.
Quiet Place?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The second one's about to come out.
I know, I'm excited, but I'm going down a list about like other. So it's a fucking article. It's called 10 horror movie couples that are relationship goals. And number 10 was Ed and Lorraine. Number 9 was Gale Weathers and Dewey Riley. And then me and Ernie didn't agree with this, but Rick and Evelyn from The Mummy.
Nah.
Yeah, and then so I was on Evelyn and Lee from A Quiet Place.
I mean, that's like more hardcore couple goals than most, I think.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm skipping past the boring ones. This is cute. Fred and Daphne from Scooby-Doo.
Oh my god. Let's start off with Fred was definitely dicking down Velma also. Like, let's start there.
Yeah, that's true.
Jenkins.
But you know, yeah. Ooh, number 3 is Sidney Prescott and Mark Kincaid, the detective in Scream 3. What? The fuck? I think he's kind of creepy, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, he's definitely creepy.
Yeah, well, one, he's a detective. So that just makes him creepy. He has this, like, entire folder of all of, like, her photos with, like, her face circled for no goddamn reason.
I missed
like,
the
clearly,
names.
Oh, no, it's Sydney and Mark Kincaid from Scream 3. So Sydney Prescott and the fucking detective.
Yeah.
No, he's creepy. I'm not about it. Billy.
Oh, Billy.
Then they have Morticia and Gomez Adams.
Oh yeah,
really?
Of course. I think they're good.
I mean, they're like they're the most in love out of any couple that on this list, but
yeah,
it's like horror. It's not really horror so much as comedy, honestly.
Yeah.
And then as number 1, they have Ellen Ripley and Dwayne Hicks from Aliens.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's super underwhelming for me too.
Yeah, I know. I'm not gonna lie, I almost did go with Gale and Dewey, but I just love, again, it's the whole, I found Billy more attractive, so I had to go with him instead.
I think Gale and Dewey are, like, man, that's a fucking love story too, like, the span of how many fucking Screams there are, and they still end up together, like, That's pretty incredible.
Yep, I agree. Sessa said in the comments, it's scary how bad the new Mummy is.
I wouldn't even know anything about a new Mummy. I stopped watching after the first one. I didn't even give any the chance after that to disappoint me.
So the second one is fantastic. The second one made me fall in love with, like, the first one. Like, it made the first one make more sense, I don't know. But then there's more women characters in the second one, and it like, everyone's just so goddamn attractive. Like, when people ask, like, oh, like, I don't know, what's the fucking meme? There's a meme that goes, like, what's your, like, sexual orientation? It's, like, the cast from The Mummy. Because everyone is just so friggin' attractive. I will say the new Mummy, I love the actress who plays the Mummy, because, again, we have a female Mummy. But besides that, fuck everything else about it. It's terrible. But you should watch the second one.
I can't stand Brendan Fraser, so that's probably it for me too.
What's wrong with Brendan Fraser?
I think George of the Jungle is up there with my least favorite movies of all time. I think that was truly like I really think George of the Jungle was my first time as a like a child being like, I don't like this, and people that do like it are stupid. I think that was like my first ever thought of that was George of the Jungle.
George of the Jungle.
I know, I started singing that in my head too.
Watch out for that tree. Like, okay, alright. It's like, be Tarzan or be nothing. I really fucking hated George of the Jungle, so maybe that's where it comes from. I do like him in one episode of Scrubs.
Yes, thank you. That's what I was going to mention next.
That's one of the hardest hitting episodes of Scrubs that has ever existed, and he was fantastic in it. To be fair,
so good.
I
listened to their podcast, and they actually had him on for like the first episode that he shows up. Like not that episode, but the one where they introduced the character, right?
Oh, okay.
And yeah, he talked about it and like the whole thing, and it's just. You should listen to it. Fake Doctors, Real Friends. I'm about it. I listen to it every week. I never fucking miss it.
If I could, I tried it, and I can't handle Zach Braff for, like, long periods of time.
I get it. They're both really goofy and silly. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, but I feel like Donald Faison just, like, it doesn't hit me as hard. Like, it doesn't hit my ear as hard as Zach Braff. And the thing is, I like Zach Braff. I even like the things he has to say, but sometimes it's like, okay, it's too self-indulgent for both of you to be doing a podcast about a show that you're... That's the same reason I won't listen to the fucking Office ladies or Ladies of the Office or whatever. It's like I like both of you guys, but you're talking about a show that you didn't even write it. You didn't write it. You were in it. Like,
that's
you know
a really good point. No, yeah, I completely get that. I think what I really like is that when they have guests on, right, that like talking, whether it be other actors or they have on the creator of the film, the series, Bill Lawrence, and he'll go and he'll just like start talking like, yeah, this is my podcast. Like he'll take credit for everything because it's a show that they're talking about, right? So there's this like ongoing joke that he goes on and he talks about that, but he started making his own like segments, like adding segments to the podcast that he's not even a part of, but it's hilarious. So he calls one like Interrupting Bill, and he literally just has one of the producer like, hey, sorry guys, and he plays like a recording of him interrupting the whole fucking podcast to say like specific trivia about that episode that they're talking about. But because of that, because like they're so self-aware that like, yeah, we get it, we just got rich off of this show, and that was like our like big like moments in our career, that we're gonna let this guy literally do anything he wants, including interrupting our show in the middle of any guest, any whatever, because like again we wouldn't be here without you. So I think again in the beginning they're still trying to get like, they've never done a podcast, they're a little like but then once they get going, it's pretty fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I'm also just like I'm loaded up on podcasts. I never get to talk about it here, but I'm a podcast fiend. I listen to a lot of horror podcasts. If you're ever interested, in listening to horror podcasts, please hit me up. I can guide you not only in the ones that are good, but like ones that like tickle your fancy specifically, like what you're into, what you're not into. If you don't like me, I'm by no means autistic, but I am sensory. I have a very sensitive hearing sensory. I hate fucking loud noises. They can ruin my whole fucking mood if they're like surprising or out of context or just too loud in general. So I can like steer you away from that kind of stuff. Like good stories and just all the podcast horror that you get. Please hit me up. I can point you in the right direction. But I'm also just like, I'm just stacked up on the only podcast that I listen to that's even remotely like that. Well, I listen to two. One of them is Tell 'em Steve Dave, which is my favorite podcast of all time. There are 469 episodes. I've listened to most of them 2 to 3 times. And I can't recommend it enough, but I won't go into more detail about that because it's not horror related. The other one is something that came out during the pandemic, which is a show called Smartless, which is Jason Bateman and Will Arnett. I like Smartless a lot. But as far as like podcasts in that general vein, I don't listen to a lot of podcasts other than Smartless or Tell 'em Steve Dave. I listen to a lot more scripted stuff or Last Podcast on the Left where they're talking about a lot of horror stuff and that kind of thing. Ernie is done with his game, and I feel like we've been going on for a long time. So that, now for a second time, that's going to be it for us. Thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in every week or whenever the fuck you can. We appreciate it. Please like, please subscribe. Please follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Deaf by Daylight. Please follow our Facebook page. Please tell all of your friends that we're here. And please interact with us whenever you can. We love audience feedback, and we understand that we're not always 100% audience feedback friendly, but we try to be when we can. And so when we are, we really appreciate your input and your participation. It means the world to us. When I post that I want to hang out with you guys, that is not like a fucking metaphor for anything. Like I want to hang out with you guys. I want to hear from you guys. I want to experience these things with you guys. So please do that. And that's it for me. These guys are going to say whatever they want to, and then we will get into the true ending here.
Yeah, don't play Survivor in DVD right now. It's trash.
Trash.
But they're supposed to fix it, so whatever. But Kill is
Trash.
pretty okay.
Alright.
Yeah, happy Valentine's Day. Go eat all the chocolate and don't share your chocolate with your dogs. It's bad for them.
Yeah,
it is bad
definitely.
for them. Thanks, everybody. If you have any ideas for how I should sign off when Jesus isn't here, it'd be greatly appreciated, because without him, I feel naked in front of the world. So, if you have any ideas about how I should sign off, please let us know. In the meantime, bye-bye.
See ya. Laters, everybody.